everyone. I don't know why I came in almost like Ahmed the Dead Terrorist. Good
I was gonna
evening,
say too, like
infidels. God damn it.
Good times.
Ah. Anyway, hi
Are you
everybody.
scared?
Just fine.
Yeah.
No, not really. No.
God damn
Oh.
it.
Ha!
Oh,
Ha! What about now?
I mean, I'm not. Damn
Not
it.
really. No. God damn it. Oh. Oh. I mean, Allah. Damn it.
Well, I love how you just reiterated the exact same joke I just made from Ahmed. Thank you.
Yeah, the reason it took me a little bit longer was because I didn't skip over 1 or 2 bits.
I don't think I
Yeah,
don't
you did.
believe I skipped over anything.
Yeah. You skipped 1 bit. Unfortunately, I have watched that thing so many times. So it is burned into my brain.
Yeah,
All of those
I
are
remember
just
my,
burned into my brain.
I remember my mother like whispering to my dad, "He memorized this whole thing." And like she was kind of like horrified about it. I was like, "This is just who I am. You need you this is all you. You did this."
You did this to me. All right, anyway.
Oh my God.
Hi guys, we're
It's
back.
all on you.
We're back. Really quickly, for those who are here on time or ish, there are now 5 posts that were on Patreon that are now completely viewable to the public. You don't even have to be a free patron. You can just like literally just see it. It is our way of saying, hey, we've got content that's not up on our channel, and
really?
we're gonna make more of it. And you should probably come
That
check out our
eventually will
Patreon
be,
if you want to
probably.
see it. Yeah. No, it will not. It will never, ever, ever come to YouTube. It
Oh,
will stay on
well,
Patreon.
that's right, because some of them is like, yeah, no YouTube, they don't like it.
Well, no,
Or like a
making it
version
so-
of it, I should say.
You're making it sound worse than no. I'm just not putting AMVs up on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Just
oh,
like
really?
old
That one didn't
times.
go up on? Oh, okay.
Yeah, dude, I have like 3 or 4 like little short AMV things that I don't want to put up on the channel because we already have enough copyright fights as it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so crazy. Literally, I have made AMVs, and I'm like, dude, I will post where I found the song and all that stuff. Like, obviously, we don't own the animation and stuff. We did make a joke about doing the beginning after the end unabridged, which is just instead of the crap that they put out, we just actually like we just crowdfund a actual like legit retelling of the story and actually add the one thing that was desperately missing from the animation.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would do it.
Yeah. We the beginning after the end, not the slideshow. The unabridged non-slideshow version.
Again for that. It's just
Oh,
like,
dude,
man,
there's so much shit. Like
you're not gonna do
okay,
it, well,
you gotta
just don't
understand.
do it
You
well.
gotta understand. Okay, I
Yeah.
made these poor fuckers, these poor other people,
course.
Moon, Fenris, Hoshi,
Yeah.
sit through
Yeah.
9 episodes, and we were like, all right, we're done. We don't even want to review this show anymore. We hate it.
So it's really
I
true.
watched the
I feel
10th
like you should-
episode on my own, and I was just like, I want to burn this to the
no.
ground. The part I was looking forward to, they ruined. And I was so mad. I wanted to burn this fucking thing to the ground. And then episode 11 came out, and I still haven't watched it. And then a couple days later, there's an announcement. The beginning after the end is getting a 2nd season. Why?
Why? I don't know. Maybe
Just
they're
'cause
gonna
it's
try.
weird how
I don't know.
like some shows
Wanna
they'll
give it a second
greenlight for a
chance?
second season, and which ones they don't. Like where
Dude,
do they like make a
I'm
call?
considering how little care was put into this series. Like, you can tell the animation company does not give a fuck about this series. How did it get greenlit for a 2nd season? You don't give enough of a shit to have given this proper thought for a 2nd season. Like,
Mhm.
if you don't care about the source material, just say so. You don't have
I mean,
to. Like, it's not
I'll
even
do
doing
it.
good in Japan. How did this
It's
Do you
get
think it was
one
greenlit
to
for a season 2?
paid for
Yeah.
two seasons just
Maybe,
before even anything
maybe.
else? That's the only way I could see it.
Who asked this is
I'm
the
actually
end of the
curious.
beginning if after the end it gets a second? I mean, the sad thing is the beginning after the end, both the web novel and the well, yeah, the web novel, because there's not a physical version of the novel yet, working on it.
Hmm.
And the comic, both the web comic and the physical stuff, because there are physical versions of the comic. I have those. Um, both of those are actually really good. Like, holy
Hmm.
cow. You can tell that Turtle Me is like really doing his due diligence when he's writing this stuff up and making sure that he takes his time and like there's okay. So just God. All right, for episode 10 they go to the auction house and it's an encounter with the royals, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So they skipped over certain things to make them happen later in the anime, which means that the entire reason to go to the auction house is just gone. There's no reason for them to be there. They're just there. Also, in the web novel and the web comic, sorry, in the novel and the comic, I'm just going to call them that. Yes, the comic is done in a manhwa style, but it is not, in fact, a manhwa. Manhwa refers to Korean comics. This is an American made. This is an American writer and an Indonesian artist.
Hmm.
It's done in a webtoon style does not mean it's a manhwa. Like the community at large has settled on calling it a web comic, and that's what I'm going to comment. So if anybody watching this later is like, it's a manhwa, no, it's not. That being said, when they go to the auction house in the actual original, there's a reason for Arthur and the gang to be there. Secondly, they're sharing the same room with the royal family.
Hmm.
And so that's a whole like there's a whole vibe from that and a tone shift and all this other stuff. Because they didn't put them in the room with the royal family. Instead, they have half this shit just happening in a hallway. And it takes all of the it makes you question the the decisions of, well, how do we get to this thing that's going to cause a disturbance and cause friction and tension between characters? How are we just going to get there? Oh, we're just going to say that this thing wandered into the hall. Really? How'd they open the fucking door?
Yeah, I
There's
don't know what to
so
say
much
there.
wrong. There's so much wrong with a lot of this. Not only how did they open the door, how they get that far into the hallway, how the other person encounter them. It's like, what the fuck? None of this was planned out. It does not look like anybody cared about the source material. That's a big important moment in episode 10, which is just sad. It's
Well,
just sad.
I was gonna ask why you guys would go past episode 3 if you hated the animation, but I guess you were just really looking forward to something past that.
It wasn't so much the all right. After a while, you do kind of get used to the animation, and there are some really good episodes. There are some episodes where they actually add something that wasn't in the story that actually makes like sense canonically.
Oh, that's I don't know. That almost makes it feel worse though at the end, where it's like you just get to the end. It's like, no, I'm done. You've dragged me through this. I don't want to be dragged through this anymore. That's almost worse when it kind of picks you back up a little bit, only to drop you again.
That's how you spell it. That's how you spell it, Pichu. Uh, Man H Hua.
wow.
Yeah, the H before the
Wow.
W. I know it's backwards from like English, but That's how you spell. That's how you spell manhwa.
Mm-hmm.
It's not manhwa. It's manhwa. Just think of it as like the H is silent, but that's how you spell it. It's like with Jinu. The W is silent. You don't say Jinwoo. You say Jinu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh,
June.
Jinu-san.
Yep.
But yeah. Oh my fucking god. I feel sorry for all of the people who had to act in this godforsaken piece of shit that was the beginning after the end.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
What's really, really sad is like when I try to tell people about this series, the best way that I could describe it is like, okay, Mushoku Tensei, if Rudius wasn't a giant pervert. You know? Or
Yeah.
as some people in the community have referred to it, Normie Tensei. It
Normie
very much
Tensei?
yeah,
Tensei.
Normie Tensei.
Yeah.
Yeah. And buckle up, guys, because we will be reading it at some point. Because this series is actually good. It's just the anime is fucking terrible, and I don't know why it got a season 2. It makes no sense.
Well,
No
Boy,
sense.
you're
I
really
guess is
selling me
that
on
they're
TV.
gonna
I'll
try.
just say that.
Well, the beginning after the the story for the beginning after the end is really, really good.
It's just the animation's bad.
It's just that the animation is it's the anime itself. It's not just the animation. They changed the story up in a lot of different ways in the anime that kind of ruins it. Like, okay, just the naming scheme of the title, the king this, the king that, the king that. Dude, after like pretty early on in the story, Arthur leaves like that life that he led in his previous life behind. He doesn't have like a trauma from his well, I mean, he technically does, but like it's not like a deep trauma like how Rudy has had. It's just that because of the life he led before, he wasn't able to have familial connections and things like that. Like, so this is literally a chance for him to live a life that he didn't get and learn and understand things that he took for granted previously. And like,
okay, so I can see where like the normie part comes in then.
yeah, because he's not like fucking
It's tame
hypersexualized. Yeah, this dude. Okay, so this dude was a king, and he wasn't exactly an amazing king. He wasn't a benevolent king. This dude killed people. He started wars. Yeah. He became king to get revenge
Oh.
in his previous life, and that kind of dominated a lot of stuff. But like all of that being said, the things that he chose to do in his previous life do not guide him in this current life. He's like, all right, I got a second chance. I'm just gonna live my best life here, you know. And then stuff happens.
I'm gonna do my retirement life here in this one.
No,
and
seriously,
then it
I could literally just screen share the beginning of the manhwa with you guys and show you what's next. Gender bent tensei, dude. They already have that. It's called isekai in general. My guy. We're doing an isekai panel. We are literally doing an isekai panel and a T-bait panel, and I have to get ready for that.
If you really want to stretch out the definition for that, Fate Stay Night.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the Fate anime, kind of. Look at that. I'm really stretching that.
But yeah, there are. Okay, so there is a mascot character that nobody else can hear talk, but they talk to Arthur. Arthur can hear her voice in his head. They speak telepathically to one another. You never get that in the anime. You just hear it make these cute little noises, even though technically, in the very beginning of the first episode, we hear the actual character talk. We hear the mascot character talk. Full sentences and everything. and then we never get a word. We never hear anything from Arthur's perspective. I would fucking change that so fast. I'm like, first off, we're hearing this character talk. It's happening. Uh there's so much stuff that I would change. I would call it the unabridged because we'd just be following the actual story. They're like, this is a glorified fan dub. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it is. Because we're trying to tell the freaking correct story. Anyway, I'll be here forever if I'm just unloading on T-Bait, the anime. The books are really good. If you want to check them out, you could read most of the entire series for like $20. Cause like I think the first 3 or 4 volumes are only like $1.99. They're cheap on Kindle, by the way, because there's no physical copies of the books. Or just get yourself a Tapas account and read the web comic. There you go. That being said, it's time to return to Rudius and his PP problems, as we said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for now.
For now, yeah. Also, I'm very
Can't
much
believe
looking
it's fall.
forward to this fall. Looking forward to October.
Yes.
That's gonna be good. We have a series coming out called "Sentenced to Be a Hero."
Sentenced.
Oh yeah, "Sentenced to Be a Hero." Here's the beautiful part. It is animated by the same team that did season 1 of Mushoku Tensei.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah. "Sentenced to Be a Hero" is so interesting because
Give me a
what do they do
synopsis.
with their criminals? They conscript them into their military and then send them to the front lines.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be like it's kind of a Konosuba thing where it's like your
No.
sentence, you have to redeem yourself in this other world.
No.
And if you do
No,
crime, then
This is not isekai. Hold on. Let me pull this up.
we
real
were
quick.
talking isekai, so like
We
yeah,
were,
you can forgive
we
me if
were.
I'm, like on that.
But
My brain's
the
locked in
connecting
that
thread
mode.
the connecting thread is it's the animation team that worked on season 1 of Mushoku Tensei.
Right.
Sentenced to Be a Hero. Now, of course, you guys can look up the trailer if you want, but hero is the worst punishment in the world. Those convicted of heinous crimes are sentenced to become heroes and forced to enter the mandatory military service in the war against the demon lords. These convicts are not even allowed to die. If killed, they will be resurrected to fight another day. Heroes Xylo Forbarts, former head of the Order of Holy Knights, leads a penal unit of deplorables fighting on the front lines. It is in these direst of circumstances that he meets Tearita, one of the world's strongest weapons. When every last enemy has been defeated, you are to shower me with praise and pat my head. In order to survive and take revenge on those who wronged him, he makes a pact with the goddess and launches headfirst into a maelstrom of war and intrigue. Yep.
I love how he's like, you kinda got me at like, you must patch my head.
No. That's not him. That's Tearita.
No, not him.
That's the
I know, not him
That's the little
specifically.
child goddess that he finds.
Yeah. God.
When this war is all over and all your foes have been vanquished, you will sing my praises and pat my head. Yeah. That is yeah. And this is
It just
very
reminds
much
me of the.
this is very much
it
in the
reminds me of
fantasy genre because we've got mages, dragons, heroes, and gods.
I just love it. It reminds me of the Pro CD bit where it's like he's playing the video game. It's like it's time to do this mandatory side quest. But it's like, you can skip it. Sure, you can skip it, but it's mandatory. It's like it's that head part. That head pat part's mandatory. You have to do it.
It to me it just feels like this feels like Tanya the Evil if the roles were reversed. So being X is the adorable little girl. Oh,
Oh my
man.
god.
I want Tanya the Evil to come back in such a strong way. We are supposed to be getting a second season. So I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to that.
I'm surprised that never got a second season.
I think
it got
they're
a
working
movie.
on it.
It got a movie. They're working on it.
Oh, it did.
They're part of a spinoff.
So is that
I
like the
guess.
lead into the second season?
No, the movie's already out. They're working on the second season.
Okay.
Wait, hang on.
It's always tough because sometimes the anime movies are just the entire series that it was, just kind of conglomerated together with more animation.
No, I
Like
get
Dragon
you.
Ball Super
I
started
got you.
with.
Which is like, oh man, Gurren Lagann was like that for the first movie at least. Then the second movie was kind of
Summer
Good movies, though.
2025, fall 2024. No. Okay. Winter 2026 and beyond. Here's what's beyond. Beyond Saga of Tanya the Evil Season 2, Mushoku Tensei Season 3, Oshinoko Season 3, Slime Season 4, Delicious in Dungeon Season 2.
hooray.
Yep. Reincarnated as a Sword Season 2. Really want to check that out.
Oh yeah.
Classroom of the Elite. No, I really want. I would love for you guys to read some of these. They're so good. There's so much good isekai.
I do want to watch Sword.
Classroom of
wasn't
the
sure about
Elite
Sword at
season
first.
4. Yeah, no, Sword is up on High Dive. Watch that. Also, guys, watch more High Dive. Seriously, need to plug High Dive. They're not afraid of titties.
Okay.
High Dive has basic almost hentai on there. So
What was the?
they
I
do
can't
in
remember
fact.
the
Mezzo Forte.
the one show that I remember.
I think Mezzo
Makes
Forte
sense.
is on High Dive. Bocchi the Rock season 2.
Bocha.
Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian season 2. Dude, I remember when that first came out, everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be that show," and it's like, nope, it got overshadowed by a bunch of shit. Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy season 3. There we go. 1,000 Year Blood War final part, season 4 essentially. Wisteria Wand and Sword season 2. That was good. I'm excited for more Wisteria. Shangri-La Frontier season 3. Looking forward to that. Now, none of this technically has like a release window or anything. Blue Box is getting a season 2. Super happy for that. Now, none of this has a specific seasonal release yet, but it's up there. Skip and Loafer season 2. Looking forward to that. Ascendance of a Bookworm season 4. Welcome to Demon School Itamakun season 4. Skeleton Knight in Another World season 2. Yeah.
I want to watch that one too.
The sequel we've all been waiting for, Trigun Stargaze. So this is the follow-up to Trigun Stampede. Yeah. Golden Kamuy is getting some more content. Okay, this is cool. For those of you who do read manhwa and are fans of like some sort of regression stuff, but also, this is just so good. Omniscient Reader is getting an anime, and I'm so looking forward to that. I've gotten into Omniscient Reader last month, and it's so good. The Unwanted Undead Adventurer is getting a second season. Oh, that's so good.
Farming
Ranma
Life in
1/2
Another
season
World
2.
is on High Dive? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Reincarnated Aristocrat is getting a third season. That was a good one. Elusive Samurai, of course, is getting a second season. No surprise on that. But yeah, let me check real quick. Okay, what's coming out in the winter? Because they may already have shit lined up. Okay, Fire Force season 3 part 2. Oh yes! Oh my god, winter 2026 is gonna cook. Guess what the first two ones on the list are? Freerun season 2.
Yeah.
And Hell's Paradise season 2. Hell's Paradise was a fucking visual feast. If you have not watched Hell's Paradise, you need to. It's so good.
There's a lot that I need to watch.
It's on Crunchyroll. Let's see what else. Is there anything else that we're familiar with? No.
Man, stop making my list bigger, Richie. What the
Samurai
fuck?
Troopers. Wait a minute. Isn't that Ronin Warriors? Isn't that the remake of Ronin Warriors essentially? Yeah. Not yet aired. Yeah, no shit, it's not yet aired. Jordan Samurai Troopers message. God damn it. Okay, it just says Samurai Troopers, but honestly, that looks like Ronin Warriors. Of course, that might be what the name of it actually is in just English. But I wish they would fucking say the goddamn name, the English name. It's so stupid. Yeah, of course the theme is samurai. It's in the damn alternative titles. All right. Anyway, yeah, that's what's coming. Okay, so fall anime, One Punch Man season 3. That's coming this fall. Yeah,
I need to finish season 2.
Spy Family season 3. My Hero Academia final season. To Your Eternity season 3. To Your Eternity season 2 or 3. Campfire Cooking in Another World season 2. Hell yes, looking forward to that. Man gets put in another world with the power of Amazon.
I thought you said the power of isekai for a second. Like, how is that a power?
The isekai, it's an isekai with the guy having the power of Amazon.
I know, it's just funny that the first
Oh
image you put in my
God,
head.
Let This Grieving Soul Retire Part 2. Oh my God. I love that show. It's a guilty pleasure, man. I can't help it. Oh, Alno Orchestra season 2. So Blue Orchestra. Okay. Trying to remember what else there is here. Trying to see what else. Okay. I don't recognize that. A mangaka's weirdly wonderful workplace. That's funny. Some of these names are just silly, you know.
What is the dumbest anime name you can think of? Like, not show-wise, just like in general, like it just sounds stupid just saying it out loud.
A Returner's
nothing
Magic
else.
ought to be special.
Like just the name sounds dumb.
Like it's just
literally,
it's so stupid sounding, regardless of the
no.
actual show
Literally,
itself.
I just said it. Literally, I just said it. A Returner's Magic ought to be special. Such a fucking dumb title.
Ought to
Is
be
this a good
is
show?
that shouldn't
Yeah,
be in
that's
anything.
an actual show.
Is it any good despite the dumb name or?
No, it's I just know that it's your bargain bin trash isekai.
I don't know, man. At this point, I'm just gonna
Power of Amazon anime so good. It is though. That's the thing. Campfire Cooking in Another World. This dude literally has the power of Amazon, so he can like
That's
he can
amazing.
like order
So just
food.
buy shit.
He can like order shit. He can buy shit on Amazon, and it just cardboard boxes just appear out of fucking nowhere, and he's just making all sorts of food and stuff, and like. And so literally Fenrir, the wolf god Fenrir, just makes a pact with him. Keep feeding me and I'll keep you safe. You know?
I see that he has the Amazon Prime life insurance package.
Mm-hmm.
Instant delivery.
I don't remember how he got isekai'd either. My joke is that Truck Kun was actually an Amazon Prime truck. So he got hit by an Amazon Prime Truck Kun.
Oh, what if it was just an unregistered truck they didn't notice, and then somehow Trunk Kun just pulls his mask away? It's like, I got you.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, the best version of Truck Kun I've ever seen. Even though everything after episode 2 was utter crap, I gotta give it to him. The live action adaptation of Yu Yu Hakusho, when Yusuke gets run over by that fucking truck, holy shit, that was so good. I know so many people that were just like me that went back and rewatched that moment. It was one of those moments where we were like, let's do that in an instant replay.
In slow.
Oh, not in slow mo, just hit instant replay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get the football
Instant replay.
commentary afterwards.
Oh, dude, I could. That shit was so. Look, if you ever abridge the Amazon Isekai series, you need to kill him off at the start with an Amazon truck. Okay, so here's the thing.
we did bring
here's
it
the
up.
thing. If I do something even remotely like that, I'm not doing one series. I'm doing multiple series. I'm just like Isekai abridged, where I'm just putting a bunch of different Isekai together and just we throw it in a pot, stir it up. Hopefully, we get something good. If it turns out to be
The
shit, I'm
serial
like, well,
massive murderers of Truck-kun.
dude, if it becomes a shit abridged, then that's just commentary on Isekai, and I'm brilliant either way. You know? It's not my fault you don't understand. I'm an artiste.
It's not my fault you don't understand trucks.
Throw in the
I do.
Isekai vending machine? My dude. My dude. That would be the funniest thing is like we literally just have a table of all these Isekai protagonists. And they're like, so what happened to you? Why is there a vending machine? And why is it
Don't worry
talking?
about 'em. Is it any
Why is
weirder
it
than the
selling
sword
condoms?
who talks?
It's like, hey, vending machine, do you have any M&Ms? Hey, you do not talk shit about Sword Dad.
Sword Dad.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what would be funny with if the
Sword is
Amazon
awesome.
one?
No,
He orders
seriously.
a vending machine, and it actually is vending machine Kun.
You do not talk shit about teacher. Don't call him Sword
no, I'm
Daddy.
not.
No, not Sword Daddy. Not Daddy. He's just Dad. Just Dad. Okay. Here's what you
Only he
here's
was a
what you
spear
need to know.
Blade
Yeah,
Guardian.
thanks so much. I see you now. But his name is Sword Dad, and you will respect his motherfucking authority. Anyway, no, his
Daddy.
name is Teacher. His
Papa.
name is Teacher, and it's literally one of the most wholesome shows. So basically, sword meets girl, sword
Yeah.
frees girl,
Yep.
and they become a father-daughter duo.
Oh, cool.
And they make
Yeah.
curry, and it's
That's
like
kind
the
of
funniest thing
that's
ever.
kind of the vibe of
Sounds good.
Sword. Like literally, if I'm understanding this right, Fran is
sound
like
family.
10 or 11 years old.
Oh,
And teacher is literally acting as a father figure. Straight up with like, any boy who ever wants to lay eyes upon my girl will have to be stronger than her. She's overpowered as shit.
Exactly.
See, the funny thing is, while he is kind of an overpowered sword, and you watch him become overpowered more and more as time goes on, Fran's the one that has to wield him.
Fran.
Yeah.
Fran is kind of
Does he
Fran's
feel
just
everything
fucking
when he gets
awesome.
hit?
Huh?
Does he feel everything when she uses him?
I guess. As much as I guess a sword would. I guess it's
As
like
much,
no
yeah.
different
He
than,
doesn't.
like-
Here's the thing: he doesn't have a lot of his emotions, like his stronger urges and emotions, have been sealed, and so I mean, he's not emotionless. It's just like a lot of
So they're
like,
subdued.
yeah. He doesn't have a libido or any of those other things.
He's a sword.
Now he can appreciate how some people are shaped,
Yeah,
but
but he's a sword.
But
he's
he
a
doesn't look at
sword.
Fran that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely not. She's a child. What? No. Ew.
Mm-hmm.
But like, also he has a sense of propriety. She's like, I'm taking you in the bath because you need to be cleaned, and he's like, no, you really shouldn't. And then the other girls walk in while she's cleaning him, and they're like, why would you bring a sword into the bath? Like, proceed to lecture her, and like, poor little girl. She's just like, well, I want to take care of my
Bless her,
sword."
bless
Yeah.
her soul.
Bless her soul. Herc was on a roll.
Overall, yeah. First I know of the week in every Greek opinion poll.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
So, that being said, Sword is awesome. If you haven't watched Sword, please watch Sword. That's over on High Dive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's on the list. Don't worry, I'll get to it eventually.
Eventually,
I do genuinely mean that. I do genuinely mean that because I do actually want to watch it.
It's been out for years, my dude.
I know.
Do we need to start a watch along on Fat Dog for you?
No, I just have to get back to
Yes.
actually watching anime because I've been busy kind of with getting ideas for Day to Live. And that might be another show I have to do that for immediately after now.
No, you're not touching Sword.
No, not Sword. It's
Sword.
not Sword.
Oh, okay.
It might be worse, actually. It honestly might be worse than Sword in your eyes. I'm not gonna say
Sword
what.
watch along, dude. Okay, here's the thing. We can't do a Sword watch along with Moon Moon because he's already seen it,
Yes.
and he loves it. He loved it. It's so good. Who's been isekai'd but not hit by a truck? Oh, Rimuru.
Oh,
Rimuru?
no, Reamer.
Rimuru got stabbed. Was not hit by a truck, and
He
literally
got
died.
stabbed by the driver of Truck Kun.
No, that was not the driver. Let's see. Oh fuck! I'm trying to remember his name. He's the guy that everybody called
Oh.
Lightspeed. The hero guy
What's
in
the-
Slime that everybody is like, cheering for and everything. Like he just looks
Masayuki?
into. Yes, Masayuki. He literally saw a hot girl, turned to say something to his friend, and was immediately in
He had a heart
the
attack.
world with Rimuru. No, he didn't have a heart attack. He just turned and it
okay.
happened. He
I
turned to
haven't-
talk to his friend and he was in a new world.
Who is the main
He didn't
protagonist
die.
of Farming Life in Another World?
Hmm.
He was not killed. It's not implied that he was hit by a truck, but I think he was just. You see him on the hospital bed.
They did get shanked, yeah.
You don't know how he dies, but yeah, he just not. You don't see he get hit by a truck at the very least.
That would be the proper way to end Sword Art Online Abridged. We're like, I'm going to save my wife. Hit by a car. Hit
Yep.
by a
Aw.
truck. Now you really got isekai, bitch. Let's see. Okay, so from my understand, okay, so if we're really trying to do another world scenarios, then technically Gray / Arthur from the beginning after the end was poisoned. That's how he died.
Konosuba technically.
Yeah, he literally died of a heart attack.
He didn't die of Trunk-kun, but Trunk-kun was close.
No, that was a tractor. That was a tractor that
Oh,
he
that's
saw.
right. I forgot.
And literally, it never touched him. He literally died from fear.
Oh,
Pissed himself to death.
oof.
I'm so enjoying beginning after the end. Oh, I'm hoping you're not talking about the anime. Someone got hit by a train? Now, if you're talking about like the novels or the comics, I absolutely get you. I got made fun of for trying to help someone. You useless goddess. Yeah.
I guess ReZero is one of them.
I don't know. I don't remember how ReZero did.
I think he was summoned after being attacked by thugs.
Okay.
I
I
don't
just remember him fighting the thugs over and over again in that world.
Yeah, because
I have
he
to go
was
into the comics
behind
because
them.
once I start a bench. Oh, there you go, comics. But once you get caught up on the comics, then you gotta binge read the books. You know.
The books.
He came out of a convenience store, is what you remember. Okay, gotcha. Rudius did get hit by Truck Kun. I can't remember, dude. Like, there's not a lot.
Always a truck.
Ari Ferretta. The whole classroom got hit. Okay, so first off, the class, the whole class, they got summoned.
Oh yeah.
Spider in Soma Spider. So what? It
Yeah.
wasn't a truck. It was an explosion. and
Uh,
that explosion was the catalyst that caused all of them to show up in the other world because that was literally a whole class of them. Get stuck in
okay.
Otome game, if I recall. Yeah, there you go. Oh, by the way, I now want a season 2 of Spider because
Has that not happened
it may
yet?
have been a CGI mess in the second half of Spider, but still better than the beginning after the end. And that's getting a season 2. So you know what? Fuck it. I want Spider season 2.
I mean, how old is Spider in terms of animation?
A couple years, easy. You want
Okay,
to
I
hear
was gonna say
something
if it's a bit
depressing
older
that's
than
gonna?
that, then yeah.
Hey, you want to hear
Mhm.
something depressing that's gonna make you feel old?
Meh.
Yesterday, June 15th, the Batman Begins officially turned 20.
Oh my god. Not
Mm-hmm.
even the Dark
I just
Knight.
grew. I
Batman
just
Begins.
shaved too, and I already feel the beard growing again.
You
I
got
just
Wow.
shaved today
you
too.
got 3 more
Thanks. I
years,
grew a
and then
beard
the
back.
Dark Knight turns 20.
You know
You
what
gotta
else is
remember,
gonna make you feel
dude,
really old?
dude. Oh, hey. It's funny because it was the year of comic books because we got
Mhm.
Batman Begins. Is that Terry? No, oh, it's not Terry McGinnis. Terry McGinnis is older than that. No, Batman Begins is the
Batman
Christopher
Beyond.
Nolan movie, the first Chris Nolan movie. That the sequel was The
Oh
Dark Knight.
yeah.
Anyway, um,
You.
all right. So The Dark Knight and Iron Man came out the same year.
Hmm.
The first Iron
Uh.
Man. Yeah.
You know what's gonna make you cringe and feel old at the same time?
I
Sonic
already
06
feel
is gonna
old.
be 20 years old next year.
Sonic what?
06.
Okay.
I mean, you don't play Sonic, so you don't know, but everyone else probably knows.
Sonic 06. Boy.
It's not that I don't play Sonic, it's just that I stopped playing Sonic after a certain point in time.
Right.
After
I
Sonic
played
Shuffle.
I played Sonic 1 and Sonic 2.
hmm Any of the advanced games?
I played Sonic Generations.
Yeah, that works.
Huh.
That's a Sonic
Yeah,
game.
that's a good one.
If only dude, no, okay. Pichu, we had enough. Last year yeah, I think how long ago was season 2 of Mushoku Tensei? Was it last year or 2 years ago? I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year because it was in the anime awards. Uh, guys, guys,
Yeah.
you cannot give
Yes.
best isekai to ReZero when literally the absolute fucking audacity of these sons of bitches to release the episode that Paul dies on fucking Father's Day.
Ugh.
ReZero did not have the
Ugh.
balls.
Ugh.
Shoku Tensei
Yeah.
did.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Uh-huh. Dude, I could literally do a show just breaking down the anime awards and how wrong certain choices are. This is why you don't let them vote like that.
Top
fucking
10
dare you.
reasons why the anime rewards are debunked.
No, not that. I just go through the nominees and be like, all right, this one wins. Here's why. And that's basically it. That's what I'd say. But all right, anime of the year, Freerin, because obviously Solo
Yeah.
Leveling season 1 is lucky to be nominated amongst all that good shit. Dude, so season 1 of Solo Leveling is not better, is sadly is not even better than Kaiju number 8. Kaiju number 8 is better than season 1 of Solo Leveling. There is no way Solo Leveling season 1 is anime of the year. Season 2, an argument can be made. I would if Solo Leveling season 2 wins anime of the year, I won't be mad at it. Cuz like I get it, but season 1 no. Did A1 pop off and do their thing? Yes, absolutely. All right, we have not read anything for almost an hour.
Nope. Just letting you vibe.
That's pretty par for the course.
No, usually up to 8:30 then we start reading.
Mm.
Mm.
Sometimes earlier. Depends.
All right. Let's go.
Okay. Chapter 8. Clueless but perceptive. Winter had arrived, and the city of Sharia and the kingdom of Renoa was covered in snow. Thanks to the city's famous magic implements, the roads and major pathways were kept clear, but massive piles of snow quickly built up to the sides and behind the main school building. Not long after the season began, a letter found its way to me. It was from a certain Soldat Heckler, S-ranked adventurer and head of the party's stepped leader. Or is this stepped ladder? I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, and it informed me that Soldat has just arrived in town. Apparently, there was some kind of clan conference taking place here. Thunderbolt, the clan's stepped ladder leader. Why do they keep calling it stepped leader? That's weird. Is it supposed to be stepped leader or stepped ladder? I thought it was stepped ladder.
Hold on. I need to pull up the book. One
Yeah.
second.
I could have sworn that their clan was
God.
called the stepped ladder.
I feel like that is the case.
Maybe it was a weird typo. These
Hold
books
on,
do
let me-
sometimes have that, but I swear, hold on.
I swear, if it
Stepped
takes me to like the Japanese version of it instead, I can't
Stepped
actually
ladder.
look at it.
Soldat.
It probably is.
It's stepped leader.
It isn't really step leader? What the fuck?
Well, no. Some things say stepped ladder.
It's supposed to be stepped leader.
Really?
Oh, it is
Yeah.
leader. Oh, okay.
It's not
I
stepped
could have
ladder. It's
sworn.
supposed to be stepped leader.
Then why do the anime say ladder though? Maybe it was just a weird typo.
I don't know. Wait,
Because some sites also say ladder too. That's fucked up and weird.
hang on.
Anyway,
Is it stepped
I'll just
leader or
call it
stepped
leader.
ladder? Hang on a
Oh,
second.
I don't
Hang
think
on
it
a
gets
That's why I was
Right,
looking.
I'm
Because
thinking
there are sites
Kendall.
that say both, which is like, huh? I'll just, if whatever it is, I can probably just
Okay,
continue
hang on
and
one
just do
second.
leader.
In the context of understanding.
Yeah, because I
Oh,
swear.
God. I look it up and it says step. It says it's giving me a
Is this
bunch
like a-
of shit about lightning.
This is like the Berenstein Bears scenario.
No, because the Berenstein thing, that's
Yeah.
legit. That's legit. It could be said
Oh, so
either
that
way.
actually happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
one, though,
actually
I
happened.
swore it was
But
stepped
step
ladder.
leader. Okay, so here's the thing. According to the Mushoku Tensei wiki, it is stepped leader.
Okay.
Also, it would not be the first time that the anime subtitles mess something up.
Yeah, because I was gonna say maybe there was like a spell check or something like that.
Also, it's like,
God damn
okay,
it.
guys, it's like going from reading the light novel for Slime and hearing Gabil, and then you get to the anime and it's
the same
Gabiru.
thing. Yeah, I mean it's not a huge deal, but it's
Or-
just kind of like
or
I
going
swore
from-
that it was stepped ladder.
Or the three lycanthropiers as opposed to the three beastketeers.
Yeah.
Which one makes more goddamn
that's about
sense,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
But
Well,
for the context
lycanthropiers
of this,
is like
for the context of
Jeff
this,
or
stepped
mouthful.
ladder is a really shit name for an
Uh-huh.
S-rank party. Stepped leader, that makes a bit more sense.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I was just going after what they were talking about
My
because I
guy,
don't know.
my
names
guy,
are.
my guy. They have a group called Counter Arrow. I'm not going to
Yeah.
question anything about this. Like we've had dead end, Counter Arrow, and stepped leader. None of this shit makes sense. There's
Nope.
a whole family of gray rats,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Green wings.
and red bats, and
Yeah.
like, the naming system in this world is
Green
weird.
cats. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just go with stepped leader since it's
Yeah,
here.
stepped leader is
Um,
what they have it as officially on the wiki, so I'm going with that.
All right. I'll continue.
All right.
Apparently, there's some kind of clan conference taking place here. Thunderbolt, the clan stepped leader belonged to, had officially summoned been officially summoned to the city to fight the Demon King Bodigadi. But when that request was canceled prior to their arrival, they ended up hanging around in town for some time anyway, and eventually decided to hold their yearly clan meeting here. Every winter, they took 2 or 3 months to talk things over and make plans for the future. Soldat was an S-ranked adventurer and a member of the clan leadership. Choosing not to attend the conference wasn't an option, so he'd been forced to come all the way to the Kingdom of Renoa. The man didn't get along too well with his clan's leader, and he'd honestly been dreading this. He was convinced he had a couple long, dreary months ahead of him. But then, on his way up here, he remembered that his old buddy Quagmire happened to be staying in the city. Since fate had brought us back together, we might as well take the chance to reconnect. Thus, he sent me this letter inviting me to catch up over a meal. The idea appealed to me as well. Soldat was a good guy and I owed him a lot. He had a past with Alina Lise, so I felt like it might be a little awkward introducing him to our devoted new boyfriend, but he was made of tougher stuff than me. He'd probably get over it easy enough. With that decided, I let Nanahoshi know that I'd be taking a break from our experiments and taking the day off. I invited Fitz to join me, but he frowned and shook his head. Sorry, I've got something else that afternoon. I'm guarding Princess Ariel. The life of a bodyguard isn't easy. However, or everybody else might be off for the day, but he was on duty from dawn till dusk. Talk about a slave to the machine. No, I was being rude to Master Fitz. He was just devoted to his work. In any case, I couldn't ask him to ditch his responsibilities. It was a pity he couldn't make it, but that's just how things went sometimes. It seemed only Alina Lise, Cliff, and I were going to meet Soldat. When the day came, the three of us walked over to the Adventurers Guild together. The roads in town were clear enough, but their surface was still white, trampled layer of snow. The stuff was removed regularly throughout the day, but often the snowstorms grew more intense at night and the city's magical snow removal couldn't keep up. Hey, are you even listening to me, Rudius? What? Of course I'm listening. For the last few minutes, Cliff had been boasting about his new plans for his own research. He'd been studying curses intensely for some time now, with the ultimate goal of lifting Alina Lise's. But curses have been around since ancient times and were the subject of ongoing study throughout history, so lifting one wasn't as easy as you might hope. For all of Cliff's bravado, 6 months of dedicated research hadn't yet brought him any major successes. Isn't it tough, working that hard with nothing to show for it? I'm not worried in the slightest, said Cliff, his voice full of genuine confidence. I'm a genius, so I'll figure something out eventually. You had to admire the guy. I knew there were some things I never accomplished no matter how hard I tried. I probably couldn't have motivated myself to slam repeatedly against a brick wall like that. Smashing away into a whole new frontier nobody had ever reached before really was something only a genius could ever hope to do. Still, if you know anything about curses, I hope you'll share your knowledge with me. I paused a moment to think this over. I felt like I'd heard the word curses pop up quite a few times during my journey from the demon continent to the city. Let's see. Where had I heard it exactly? Curses. For some reason, the sound of the word made me want to cringe in fear. That's probably because Orsted had a few of them. It was a man god who told me that, right? Come to think of it, I've heard the demon god Lapis was cursed as well. He'd supposedly transferred his into the spears that he gave to the spirit, dooming them to centuries of persecution. Well, I've heard that Lapis once transferred his own curse into a number of objects and used them to pass it on to a certain tribe of demons. Objects? Right. To be specific, the spears the spirit used during the Lapis War. Thanks to the curse on those weapons, they lost their sanity and ended up killing or getting a reputation as mindless killers. Cliff opened his eyes wide. What? I've never heard that before. Is that actually true? Well, I've only heard it secondhand, so I can't say for sure. Was it the man god who told me that as well? Yeah, that sounded right. It was probably safe to take him at his word on this one. I couldn't see what he'd stand to gain by me or by lying to me about it. Either way, that is a most intriguing concept. I didn't know it was possible to transfer a curse into an object. Cliff put his hands to his chin and nodded thoughtfully, apparently pondering the idea. I don't know how you do it, though. I don't know how you do it, though. Sorry. Yeah, that's alright. Just knowing that it's been done before is very helpful in itself. Had anybody other than Lapis even pulled it off, though? It seemed like the sort of evil trick you'd expect a demon god to use, but it wouldn't have surprised me if there was some ancient taboo against messing around with that sort of thing. That said, blessed and cursed children were supposedly the exact same thing, right? Maybe there's some precedent for moving to or trying to move a blessing into a different vessel, at least. Cliff, do you know if anyone's ever tried to transfer a blessing rather than a curse? Huh? What did the blessed have to do with anything? Said Cliff, tilting his head curiously. Strange. It felt like we weren't working from the same starting point here. Well, blessed children are the same as cursed ones, right? They're all born with something strange about their mana, which gives them odd powers. The only difference is whether the effect happens to be positive or negative. That's news. Oh, that's news to me. I looked over to Alin and Lise for backup, but she was also looking at me in surprise. Evidently, neither of them had heard this before. Maybe it wasn't widely known? I seem to remember someone telling me about it really casually, though. Wait, that was the man god too. All of this was man god information, wasn't it? I needed to stop dropping obscure arcane knowledge at me like it was nothing. Still, this is all very interesting. Objects, eh? Very interesting indeed. Perhaps I could try that. Cliff was squirming with excitement. He looked convinced that I'd handed him an important clue. To be honest, I think he was swallowing everything I told him a little too readily, but whatever. Either way, it felt like curses had some connection to the so-called gods of this world. Man god, the dragon god, and the demon god all had at least one. And then there were the blessed children, who were supposedly divine somehow. Was there some meaningful connection here, or was it just coincidence? Thank you, Rudius. I think you've helped me hit on something. Clip's face was full of optimism and energy. While he was at it, maybe he could find a way to fix the curse afflicting my private parts. Hey, Quagmire! Long time no see! Soldat and his buddies greeted me with easy smiles. Within a few minutes, we made our way to the nearby tavern and settled down around a large table. When they heard about Cliff and Alina Lisa's relationship, the members of Step Leader were shocked, to put it mildly. What the hell? Someone piped up, stifling a laugh. Are you seriously getting married? And here I thought you were a slut for life. Cliff exploded with anger, obviously, but Soldat and the others just found that hilarious, which drove Cliff to new heights of fury. For a moment, I thought things might come to blows. Fortunately, Alina at least somehow talked her boyfriend down while simultaneously changing the subject. The woman was seriously impressive sometimes, especially when it came to anger management. Come to think of it, I'd never once seen her get angry or break down in tears. She got quite sulky a few times, sure, but never quite seriously upset. Paul was the only person she'd ever mentioned hating. How had my old man done to her anyway? When I pondered all this, the topic somehow shifted to my outfit. I'd worn my school uniform as usual. It's funny seeing you in that outfit, Quagmire. Makes you look like another random rookie. Some students from the University of Magic made a habit of coming over to the Adventurers Guild still wearing their uniforms, while at most a cloak thrown on above them. Almost all of them were rookies at rank F or E, so they didn't interact directly with Soldat's party very often, but sometimes they come begging for an invitation to Thunderbolt. Well, if I'm a rookie now, why don't I act like it and carry your luggage for you? Ha! Nice try, kid. Nobody touches our stuff but us. Right. I seem to remember you hauling back all the goodies from that stray dragon. Ah, man, that was one profitable day. It was kind of fun reminiscing about this stuff. When I'd taken down that red worm, the whole party had carried its meat and scales all the way back to town and split up equally. Oh, right. It reminds me, Quagmire. So we were up in the nearest tundra the other month, and from this point on, the conversation shifted from reminiscing about the past to stories of Step Leader's recent adventures. Cliff still looked pretty sulky for a while, but as Soldat and the others went on, his eyes began to sparkle with excitement. Come to think of it, he'd once dreamed of becoming an adventurer, right? I guess he is still just a teenager. It's easy to forget, given how he usually acts. So we got out of there in one piece, at least. Anyway, it's about time we moved to a new place, right? What's next? We'd all finished our food, and the story was at an end. Seemed like a good time to find ourselves a new tavern and start really drinking, but a messenger from the clan came out of nowhere just as we were leaving. Hey, Soldat. They just called another meeting. What? Again? You serious? We just had one this morning. Sorry, but it's happening. Leader's really full of energy today, I guess. The sound of things, Soldat was being called to a sudden gathering of party leaders, and declining to show up wasn't an option. Shit. Sorry, Quagmire. I was looking forward to killing a whole day getting drunk with you. But I guess it ain't happening this time. Let's pick up where we left off another day, okay? No problem, Soldat. Send me a message anytime you're free. With a firm nod, Soldat strolled off down the street. In any case, we lost the host of our party, so it was probably time to call it a day. It was only early afternoon, though, maybe 2:30 at the latest. If I went home now, I'd be left with a lot of time to kill. What should we do now? I asked, looking around the group. Well, actually, said Alina Elise, I was hoping we could teach Cliff a thing or two about adventuring. Oh, yeah? Interesting. Alina Elise must have noticed how excited her boyfriend got over Step Leader's stories and decided to show off her chops as an adventurer. Ooh, now that sounds like fun. Gonna educate a rookie, huh? Can we tag along too? The other members of Step Leader seemed to approve of this idea as well. After a little more discussion, everyone was generally on board with giving Cliff a taste of adventuring life. The idea was to take on a request to slay an A-ranked monster to get him some real experience. Cliff was a little grumpy about the vaguely condescending way everyone was talking about him, but his excitement seemed to override that. What about you, Rudius? Said Alina Elise. Well, I think I'll pass, actually. I could give Cliff some advice on how to contribute in a party with multiple mages, but somehow I didn't think he'd want to get lectured by someone younger than him. In situations like this, it was easier to swallow your pride when everyone teaching was older. Also, it wasn't a great idea for me to go spend a couple of days hunting down some elusive monster. If I didn't run it by Nanahoshi first, I could imagine her getting very, very cranky. Despite her self-imposed isolation, the girl seemed weirdly hungry for company. She got sulky every time I went a day or two without helping her. If she wanted to be a real shut-in, she needed to learn how to savor the loner lifestyle. Of course, it seemed like she missed Japan a lot, so I could understand her wanting someone to speak her native language with. But as someone who decided to keep living in this world, it was hard to resist telling her to go outside more often. All right, then. Will you let everyone know where we're going then? Yeah. Yeah, no problem. You be careful out there, Lena Lise. You got a beginner with you, so don't drag him anywhere too dangerous. Don't worry, Rudius. Oh, sorry. Don't worry, Rudius. Unlike a certain someone, we're not planning to go challenge a red worm or a demon king. It wasn't like I'd fought Body Gotti because I wanted to, but okay, whatever. After saying my goodbyes, I headed back towards the university alone. For the adventurers district, that meant walking across Sharia's central commercial plaza. As I entered the area, the tempting scent of grilled meat on sticks wafted through the air to me. I looked toward the scent and found that a number of merchants had set up outdoor stalls despite the snow everywhere. Must be rough doing business out here in this cold, man. Still, I had some more free time to burn. I could head back to the dorms, but there wasn't there much to do there except studying, practicing, and making figurines. Maybe it would have been smarter to just tag along with Cliff and Company instead of overthinking it. Too late now, though. Well, I'm out here already. I might as well look around a little. I aimlessly set out down the streets of the Commerce District. I didn't eat anything in particular, but maybe I'd spot something interesting. After that discussion with Cliff, I was somewhat interested in the various kinds of magic items. Those cursed spears Lapis gave the spirit were presumably magical implements of some sort, after all. I hadn't given much thought to magic items up until now, since the ones on sale were all incredibly expensive, but Fitz was apparently equipped with some, and Anahoshi had a few handy artifacts of her own. Shari was basically the hometown of the Magician's Guild. Maybe I'd find a few interesting things for sale here. I wasn't planning to actually purchase them, but a little window shopping never hurt anyone. Incidentally, though, I'd originally gotten the two categories confused. Magic items and magical implements were two distinct things. Magical implements were handmade objects with magic circles engraved on them. When the user chanted a specific incantation, their mana would flow through these, producing some effect. As long as the user's mana wasn't exhausted, they could be reused indefinitely. Magic items, on the other hand, were objects infused with their own supply of mana. You activated them through some sort of gesture or action. They could only produce their effects a few times per day, but their internal mana supply would regenerate over the course of several hours. Basically, magical implements could be used quickly many times in a row, but they cost you mana, whereas magic items had limited uses but didn't require anything from you. Magic items were generally considered to be more practical and useful since you didn't need to expend your precious mana to memorize an incantation to use them. But most of those in existence had been found deep inside various labyrinths, and their capabilities were kind of random. As a result, those with powerful effects tended to fetch astronomical prices. Those boots Fitz wore, for example, were probably worth considerably more than every piece of property I owned combined. As a side note, though, some of the weapons known as magic swords were man-made but also had the qualities of a magic item. Of course, I had more than enough mana to go around, so magic implements were also alright by me. Even ones that use too much mana to be practical were, or for most people, might prove useful to me. I was kind of hoping I might stumble across something like that, misclassified as a defective product, if I searched the shops here thoroughly enough. But then as I was walking down some random street, I noticed two familiar faces. Hmm? Luke and Fitz were chatting with each other in front of a clothing store of some sort. Fitz was looking at some trinket in the shop window with a delighted expression on his face. Luke was smiling too, although he looked slightly exasperated. He was already carrying a large shopping bag in one hand, almost looked like they were out on a date. Did Fitz say he's guarding Ariel today? Is it okay for them to be hanging out here like this? Well, whatever. Can't hurt to say hello at least. Good afternoon. I wasn't expecting to run into you two out here. What the? Rudius? Oh, what the? Rudius? Luke spun around, his face stiffening in shock. As always, the man didn't seem to be especially fond of me. I was doing my best not to tread on their turf or anything, but I guess I'd gotten myself too much attention lately. That was probably a source of irritation for them. All I really cared about was staying on good terms with Fitz, though. Hmm? Somehow Fitz seemed different today. Was he dressed differently, maybe? No, this was something else. I couldn't put my finger on it. Master Fitz, did you change up your look or something? As soon as the words left my mouth, Fitz twitched and looked at me as with an expression of pure shock on his face. Was the way he held himself, maybe? His body also seemed a little more rounded out somehow. As I continued to study him, Fitz turned his face away from mine. An instant later, Luke slipped himself in between the two of us. Hello there, Rudius. What are you doing here? Did you need something from us? It felt like he was hiding Fitz from me, like an overprotective boyfriend or something. His voice was calm, and although his gaze was sharp, it wasn't openly hostile. Still, there was definitely some tension in his voice. Had I come across him at an inconvenient moment? Were the two of them actually out on a date? Maybe Luke actually swung both ways, and the two of them had an arrangement? It makes sense for them to try and keep that a secret. There might be something of a stir if everyone found out that Ariel's guardians were lovers. Didn't seriously think that that was the case, of course, but for some reason, the thought still made me flinch. Not really. I just saw the two of you out here and thought I'd say hello. Um, Master Fitz? Fitz hadn't even glanced in my direction for a while now. Huh? Is he giving me the cold shoulder? But why, though? Was it something I said? I see. Thank you for the greetings. I have to remind you, though, that Fitz isn't supposed to speak while he's guarding the princess. I'm sure you understand. Yes? His words were superficially friendly, but Luke was trying to chase me off. One thing was clear, at least. I'd definitely come by at an inconvenient moment. Still, it seemed really harsh of Fitz to ignore me completely like this. Fitz still wasn't looking at me. Well, no, he was shooting me glances now and then, but they weren't exactly friendly. I could tell he was frowning. His body language made it very clear that he was waiting impatiently for me to leave. I can be a bit oblivious sometimes, but even I could see he was snubbing me. What's the matter? Asked Luke calmly. It's it's nothing. Please excuse me. I turned and walked off quietly. I don't think I gave away anything on the surface, but on the inside, this was hitting me hard. Being shunned like that by Fitz hurt so badly that I could hardly even think straight. I lost all interest to go window shopping. It was time to go home. The road in front of me was covered in a coating of light, slightly grimy snow. It was coming down again, of course. The wind felt very cold today. Slowly, I made my way back to the university campus. I thought things over at some length as I walked, but I couldn't come up with my explanation for why Fitz had treated me like that. As far as I recalled, I hadn't done anything to upset him recently. I kind of wanted to talk to someone, or maybe just vent. Zenova was off at the Magician's Guild today, helping with them with their research into blessed children. He'd probably taken Julie with him. Lenny and Persenna were technically an option, but I wasn't too optimistic that they'd take this seriously. Would probably end up with them jumping to conclusions and teasing me ruthlessly. Helena, Lisa, and Cliff weren't an option, of course. Bodigatti didn't seem to be on campus today either, and Nanahoshi kind of had her hands full with her own problems. I couldn't think of anyone else to turn to. Didn't have that many friends. In the end, I headed straight over to the library. At times like this, it was best to sit somewhere quiet and lose yourself in a stupid book for a couple hours. A tale of heroism or adventure might be nice right about now. Had any tales about Kishirika and Bodigatti I turned into a book? That was the sort of thing I wanted right now. The tale of two peerless warriors smacking pitiful magicians around as they cackled with laughter. I stepped in the library, nodding slightly at the guard. We never had an actual conversation, but I'd been here often enough that he let me pass automatically. I paused for a moment to brush the snow off my clothes and use a silent spell to quickly dry myself off. Then I headed for my usual seat with a small sigh of relief. The building was, as I expected, nearly empty. There weren't many students here who'd spend their days off in the library. In this world, reading wasn't that big of a thing in general. The literacy rate wasn't especially high after all. Huh? Somehow Fitz was in here. He was sitting at the table we usually shared, reading a book with his head propped in his hands and a mildly bored expression on his face. Oh, hi there, Rudius. When he noticed me approaching, he looked up with his usual bashful smile. Back already? Or, back already? I thought you'd be staying out later. Did you meet your friend at least? Uh, oh, sorry. This is still, Fitz. Back already? I thought you'd be staying out later. Did you meet your friend at least? Uh, yeah. I sat across the table from Fitz and studied his face carefully. He seemed normal. His clothing and his mannerisms were the same as always. There was something very strange about this. I'd run into him outside and then headed straight over to the library. The path I'd followed here was basically the shortest possible route. How the hell was he sitting here right now? Uh, what's wrong? Is there something on my face? Said Fitz, running his hand over it anxiously. This is the other thing right here. Why was he acting like this? He'd snubbed me to my face 5 minutes ago, and now he seemed totally relaxed and trusting. Why did you ignore me like that earlier? The questions popped out of my mouth before I could stop myself. Fitz's smile froze in place. After a moment, he carefully assumed a serious expression. Well, you know, I'm actually not supposed to talk to anyone when I'm on guard duty. I'm Silent Fitz and all, you know? My voice is kind of childish, so people don't take me seriously when I speak. When I'm in public, particularly when I'm guarding Princess as Ariel, she wants me to keep as quiet as possible, or keep quiet as much as possible. Is that right? I didn't see Princess Ariel around, though. Oh, she was inside one of the nearby stores. It's a place we know we can trust. Luke and I aren't her only guards either. The others were keeping watch at her side while we kept an eye on things from a distance. Um, don't tell anyone else about that, though. Fitz's words came out smoothly, almost without a moment's hesitation. almost as if it was something he'd rehearsed in advance. I see. Well, I'm sorry for getting in your way while you're working then. Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry too. I wasn't trying to be rude or anything. I was starting to get an idea about what was actually going on here. I couldn't be completely sure, but it was likely Princess Ariel had somehow taken on Fit's appearance as a disguise. It was probably a magic item or implement involved somehow. She hadn't spoken to me because her voice wasn't affected by its powers. Maybe the color of her eyes didn't change either? That would explain why Fitz always kept his eyes hidden. Otherwise, it would be a dangerous giveaway when Ariel needed to disguise herself as him. Yeah, the more I thought about it, the more it seemed to fit. The reason Fitz had shown me earlier was simple enough. I was friendly enough with the actual person that I would have seen through her attempt to imitate him. Right. I hadn't done anything to make him angry after all. Seemed like a good explanation to me. I'd take it. Phew, that's a relief, though. I thought you hated me now, Master Fitz. You got me really worried there for a minute. Don't be ridiculous, Rudius. I couldn't hate you if I tried. Fitz scratched at the back of his ears in embarrassment. He made that gesture all the time, but lately it got my heart beating faster every time I saw it. Why did such an adorable person have to be a guy anyway? Assuming he really was. I still wanted to believe otherwise. Fitz had been on my mind a lot lately. As always, we only ran into each other once every few days, and it wasn't like we had that much to talk about when we did. But even so, I couldn't seem to stop thinking about him. Sometimes I catch myself remembering the little gestures he made, the way he scratched his ears, the way he stretched out when he finished up some task. At other times, I thought about his scent, the way I'd catch a whiff of it when he walked past me in the hall. Above all else, I thought about his smile. That bashful little grin of his just wouldn't get out of my head. It was no different on the days when I didn't see him. Whenever I saw a crowd of students, I'd find myself searching for him. In my defense, he was in the middle of a crowd more often than not. Princess Ariel and her retainers were famous in this school. When they ran around or when they went around on student council business, a handful of them often attracted a large crowd of onlookers. And even among that eye-catching group of people, Fitz in particular got a lot of attention. Silent Fitz rarely spoke in public, but he was one of the princess's most trusted guards and one of the most skilled mages in the entire university. It wasn't surprising that people would be interested in him. I was one of them at this point. Whenever I did see him, my eyes always seemed to follow him. I recognized what all these symptoms meant, of course. I was in love. I've fallen for a guy. Assuming he really was one, which I wasn't totally convinced of. This seemed like an important question. Depending on his gender, I'd have to come to terms with the fact that I was gay or possibly bisexual. Not that it really mattered in the short term, given that my conditions still hadn't improved. I was still kind of hoping he turned out to be a girl, though. Once I managed to finally admit my feelings to myself, I set out to gather some information on the subject. The easiest and most ethical approach would be to ask the guy himself, but that was going to be my last resort. For all I knew, might be self-conscious about that charmingly girly face of his. I started off by heading to the teacher's building. There were presumably student records on file in their offices here, the actual truth recorded in them. I expected them to have some policy about protecting the students' privacy, but maybe I could just convince them to help me out just this once. After some hunting around, I managed to find the professor in charge of the fourth years, who was serving as Fitz's advisor. I put the question to him straight. Can you tell me what Master Fitz's gender is, Professor? I can't give you any information about Fitz. Are you sure? Couldn't you bend the rules a little, just this once? The professor cringed slightly as I spoke. Apparently he found me somewhat terrifying. These days, a lot of students went pale every time they saw me. But I'd hardly expected this from from a member of the faculty. Maybe I could use this to my advantage. If you really can't be flexible, maybe I'll shoot a nice thick stone cannon up your backside and see if that helps. Wait, maybe you'd prefer a vigorous blast of water instead. I'm very sorry, but I simply can't tell you anything. The man proved to be stubborn nut to crack. It was nice to see the faculty here didn't give in to threats, at least. I was only joking, Professor. Given up on the simple intimidation approach, Given up on the simple intimidation approach, I headed off to find Genius instead. If I couldn't get answers from the guys at the bottom, I'd go straight to the top instead. I found our beloved vice principal in the midst of a spirited battle with a mountain of paperwork. Given the size of this university, there was probably plenty of forms to sign off on any given day. I felt a bit bad about interrupting him, but it wasn't like this should take too long. Hello, Vice Principal Genius. Oh, good day, Rudius. You seem fairly busy, I have to say. Oh, not at all. Thanks to you keeping our problem children under control, my life's gotten much easier of late. Problem children? Was he talking about Bodygotti and Zenobia, maybe? Not that they really were children in most sense of the word. In any case, what can I do for you today? Actually, I wanted to ask for some information on Master Fitz. The vice principal's eyebrows twitched. I'm terribly sorry, but the people calling the shots gave us some rather strict instructions regarding him and his employer. Is that so? I was slightly tempted to tell him that I didn't give a damn, but something about the exhaustion on his face made me reconsider. The administration had their own problems, clearly. Might have secured themselves crucial support of some kind by accepting the second princess and her retinue. Could you at least tell me what Fitz's gender is, though? His gender? Hmm. Genius offered me one of his famous awkward smiles. These really were his specialty. For about a minute, he thought over my request. A minute could feel like a very long time when you were waiting in total silence, though. Fitz is a man. In the end, that was the extent of his reply. Ultimately, I wasn't sure about Fitz's gender. Genie sat back to the official story, but he was clearly under some pressure, and he thought it over for a really long time. It was hard to say if he was truthful with me or not. Of course, he'd automatically use the pronouns him and his for Fitz before he even heard my question. Did that mean he told me the truth after all? No, there was no point overanalyzing it. I didn't have the evidence to make up my mind either way. Without realizing it, I'd made my way over to the library and to the table where I'd always worked with Fitz. I sat down and let out a soft little sigh. What was the point of finding out about his gender anyway? Could I even bring myself to tell him how I felt? Could I tell someone that I had feelings for them? Me? Of all people? It was good to get these things off your chest, in theory, but the idea felt kind of wrong. I wasn't approaching this the right way. First off, what did I even want to happen after I confess? That was important. Very important, in fact. I couldn't take things too far with my body in this condition. My crane didn't want to move, but it wasn't like I had full or a shortage of gasoline. My brain was full of dirty, evil thoughts at all times. At some point, I wouldn't be able to restrain myself, but I wouldn't be able to do anything when I tried. It just sounded like torture. Right. Let's just put aside the pretty words that people always throw around. No more euphemisms about my feelings. I want to sleep with Fitz. I want to do all sorts of things with him. I want to experiment. I want to try a little of this, a little of that. Well, maybe that's taking things too far. God, I wish I could jerk off at least. Just as I muttered these words to myself, a hand dropped on my shoulder. I turned and looked upwards and found myself face to face with Fitz. Jerk what off? He said, tilting his head curiously to one side. Ah! I leapt up violently, tangling my feet in the legs of my chair. Well, watch out! Fitz reached out to me and grabbed my hand, trying to steady me, but he wasn't strong enough to hold me back. Oh! I don't think that's how they scream, but it works. We ended up falling together, still tangled up in the chair, pushing back the table as we went. And when we hit the ground, Fitz landed on top of me. I was lying on my back, holding him on my arms. Fitz's face was very close to mine. Thanks to those huge sunglasses, I couldn't fully make out his expression. I could see the bridge of his nose and his slender lips only inches away. I felt the warmth and weight of his body on top of me. Not that he weighed very much at all. A pleasant smell filled my nostrils. It was Fitz's scent, at a greater intensity than I ever experienced before. I could have spent a whole day savoring it. My arms had somehow wrapped themselves around his hips and bottom as we hit the ground. His waist was slender and feminine. His bottom wasn't exactly plump, but it was soft. The sensation alone had my naughty little guy standing at attention. Holy shit. Sorry, Rudius. Flushing bright red, Fitz quickly tried to push himself off me. Master Fitz, you really are a girl, aren't you? Ah! That's them screaming at each other in that panel. He looked at me in shock, then gaped wordlessly for a few seconds before managing to shake his head. No, I told you, I'm a man. Jumping up to his feet, he or she backed away from me for a few paces, then turned around and sprinted for the exit. Fitz had left a number of books behind on the table. Maybe she had been picking up some reference documents for class, like on the day of our first meeting here. And she definitely was a girl. There was something even more important in my mind right now. Got a boner. After 3 long years of silent slumber, my little corporal was finally saluting the flag once again. After all that frustration and disappointment, just touching Fitz had got me aroused. Gingerly, I reached down with one hand to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Wow, it's not a dream, is it? In this moment, I finally understood the meaning of the man god's advice. This is why he told me to poke around the library.
It's a nightmare.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of boner. Great. That said, I'd known from the very start that Fitz was hiding things from me. Whatever his gender, if he was concealing anything, it had to be for good reason. I didn't want to blow his cover with my theories and my blundering. I was in love with Fitz. Fitz wanted to be known as a man. Would it be fair to prioritize my feeling under those circumstances? Or my desires, for that matter? Obviously not. I had no right to expose her secrets. If anything, I had a responsibility to respect her wishes and help her keep up the act. That felt like the only safe approach, actually. I didn't force myself to think that way. I was afraid I might sneak up and whisper, "I'll keep my mouth shut. Let's come over to my room tonight," in her ear. That would be one of a hell of a way to repay her for everything she'd done for me. "I never thought you were such a scumbag," she said bitterly, getting down to her underwear, and then at long last, "No, no, no! Bad thoughts. Very bad thoughts. He'd or she'd helped me out in so many times in so many ways. It would be truly unforgivable to betray her like that. And I didn't want her to think of me as a scumbag either. I was a gentleman at heart. Really. Sort of. I just have to treat her the same way I did before, and if she ever seemed to be in danger of being exposed, I'd quietly step in to help out. She'd done the same for me on my first day at the school, after all, even though I'd probably have been a risky move for her. Complaining about the dorm's regulations could have put her on some seriously shaky ground. Even so, she jumped in to help me. She'd come to my rescue, though I still didn't know why. If that situation was ever reversed, I'd have her return the favor. I'd help Fitz just like she'd help me. Wait a second, though. If Fitz is really a woman. At this point, my mind went off on something of a tangent, and a few memories flashed vividly through my head. I was suddenly recalling all the dirty jokes I'd made in front of Fitz in the past. My one-liner at the slave market, the stuff I said when I captured Lillian Persena. Oh God, and that thing I made him say when he brought me my staff. I writhed in agony for a while. Once I'd finished up with this delightful trip down memory lane, I found that my little soldier had resumed his lifestyle as a shut-in. No matter how I urged him, he stubbornly refused to emerge. I guess he was less obnoxious about it than the old me at least, since he didn't start pounding on the floor when I pestered him. I really wanted to give the little twerp a proper jerking for the first time in years, but apparently I was still far from being totally cured. Oh well, at least I had a reason to feel hopeful now. No point in rushing things. Time being, I headed back to my room to try and fix that wonderful sensation in my memory. The next morning, it took a serious effort to pull my sluggish body into a sitting position. I'd been so preoccupied with my partner's brief recovery that I hadn't managed to get much sleep. The little guy in question was still pretending nothing had happened, sadly. My mind was filled with thoughts and images of Fitz, but I didn't get so much as a twitch of a reaction from that traitor downstairs. When was he going to stop sulking and help me blow off some steam that was building up inside me? Maybe memories just weren't enough to please him? I still didn't know exactly what had set him off. Might have been her scent, her voice, or the feeling of her body. Either way, something about Master Fitz was clearly the key to curing my condition. Man God was right on the money all along. I hadn't realized it for months, but the medicine I needed had been at close hand all along. Still, when I slowed down to think about this rationally, the one major problem still remained. How was I going to get myself a prescription? Fitz couldn't reveal her real identity. I didn't want to do anything that would make her uncomfortable or angry. Curing my condition was important, but so was keeping Fitz's trust. If thought Fitz was a girl 6 months earlier, I might have courted her more aggressively, caring more about my own problem than her opinions. But now I had actual romantic feelings for her. I didn't want to repeat the mistake I made with Eris and get physical too early. I didn't want Fitz to walk in my life without a word. Guess I'll just see where things go. So now I was the guy who was counting on the cross-dressing bodyguard or princess to cure his impotence, huh? Sounded like an amusing concept for a show. If you're enjoying this, man God, how about throwing me a tip? A sardonic little smile, I rolled out of the bunk bed, which I still had to myself, and stretched. I couldn't suppress a loud, long yawn. This was definitely going to be a long day. I walked over to the empty bucket I left in one corner of the room and filled it up with warm water. The face that stared up at me from the inside was relatively handsome. I'd inherited a mixture of Paul's bad boy womanizer look and my mother's softer features. For the standards of my old world, at least, the result wasn't bad, although it wasn't what people in this one thought of as perfect. No matter how many times I looked at his face, I couldn't think of it as mine. But I'd gotten used to that by now. It was a better one than I had last time, and that was good enough for me. Did it appeal to Fitz at all, though? That was the important thing. Okay, stop. There's no point even thinking about this. Fitz was a man, and I wasn't going to do anything about him. That was my official stance for now. As I began to wash my face, I noticed a hint of something on my chin. When I tugged on it, my skin stretched out a little. It was a whisker. A single soft, downy whisker. Guess I'm getting to that age now, huh? Humans didn't age too differently in this world, from all appearances. My dad wasn't a hairy guy, so it had taken a while for me to develop anything on my face, but I had hair growing in other places you expect by now. I wasn't sure how that worked for people from other races like Fitz. Were elves different somehow? Did they have hair down there yet? Something about that thought nagged at me for some reason. I felt like I was on the verge of remembering something, but it wasn't coming to me. Whatever. With a shrug, I shaved off a stray hair on my chin. 2 days passed without any progress whatsoever. I had no contact with Fitz at all in that time. I wasn't going to risk doing anything suspicious, like trying to track him down. Nothing to see here, officer. Everything was the same as always. The third morning after the incident, however, I found Luke waiting for me in the hallway of the boys' dormitory. I didn't panic, but expecting something like this to happen eventually. Hello there, Master Luke, I said as brightly as possible. What are you doing here at this hour? Luke didn't seem too chipper himself. Something about the way he looked at me suggested he wasn't in the best of moods. I need to speak to you regarding Fitz. As expected, but I had my response to this line of questioning worked out in advance. I don't know what you mean. Oh, is that a fact? Luke's tone was challenging. Was he looking for more information on what had taken place the other day? Maybe he thought I wasn't sure about Fitz's gender one way or the other. I blurted my thoughts when we were lying on the ground together, but she'd never confirmed the fact that she was female, and it wasn't like I'd grabbed her breast or stripped her naked, Son Goku style. They might be hoping they could still hide the truth from me if they pushed the issue hard enough. I was fine with letting things go in that direction, of course. Still, was it really that much of an issue if I knew Fitz's secret? Maybe it had something to do with the fact that I was technically a gray rat. I'd cut my ties with the Boreas family at this point, but I didn't know what they were thought of Paul. Whatever the case might be, it seemed like a good idea to express my intentions very clearly now that I had the chance. Just to reiterate, Luke, I have no intention of making enemies of you people, and I don't know anything about Fitz or any secrets he might be hiding. You're willing to pretend not to know anything. Why? Well, I'm not connected to the Boreas or the Nodos families at this point, and more importantly, it would be a little scary to get on Princess Ariel's bad side. A look of pure surprise flashed across Luke's handsome face, and he fell silent. Had I said something dangerous? Maybe it would have been smarter to keep up the pretense I literally didn't know a thing. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Right. Sorry to have bothered you. With his final exchange, I walked off and left Luke standing in the hallway. Oh, sorry, that's the other way around. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Right. Sorry to have bothered you. With this final exchange, I walked off and left Luke standing in the hallway. After finishing up my classes that same day, I headed over to Nanahoshi's rooms for our regularly scheduled experiments. For some reason, though, I found Fitz standing just outside. As I recalled, she wasn't supposed to come help me again, or help me out again for a few more days, until she had a break from her duties as the princess's bodyguard. She wasn't off duty today, I was fairly sure of that, but she showed up anyway. She'd come to Nanahoshi's lab rather than sticking with the princess. Presumably there was a reason for that, and presumably it had something to do with certain of recent events. My close encounter with Fitz the other day and my conversation with Luke this morning. Fitz and Ariel had no reason to take me at my word. If anything, they had plenty of good reasons to distrust me. That was a natural consequence of uncovering someone's secrets. In other words, Fitz was probably here to keep an eye on me. Maybe she wanted to confirm if I really meant the things I'd said to Luke. Too damn clever today, man. I've been silent for a while, and Fitz's face was visibly tense. After a few minutes of this, Nanahoshi muttered, "What is this? Did you two have a fight or something?" While drawing up a new magic circle. No, we didn't have a fight or anything. Fitz's response was hilariously awkward. He really was adorable when he got flustered. Still, it was obvious that he still doubted me. How are we supposed to earn someone's trust in a situation like this anyway? Maybe it would have been better off just bending the knee and offering tribute to Ariel. I could really think I was to buy him a nice box of pastries or something, but given how cautious they were about me right now, that might backfire badly. Look, I don't really care either way, said Nanahoshi, her voice distinctly irritated. Just don't drag me into your nonsense. The girl had a strict policy of avoiding trouble as long as she was stuck in this world. Fitz was deeply involved with the Siren royalty, and Nanahoshi clearly didn't want to get mixed up in any conflict between the two of us. Of course, if she went around talking that rudely to people, she'd probably make some trouble of her own eventually. I was basically the only person she interacted with right now, so maybe that wasn't that big of a deal. Well, whatever. She didn't want to get involved in this world. That was her call. I didn't really have any right to an opinion that on the matter. I felt like it wouldn't hurt for her to try and be a little more outgoing, but she was currently spending every single day frantically drawing up hundreds of magic circles. It was hard to suggest that she set aside some energy for socializing. Normally, I carried out these experiments while chatting idly with Fitz or Nanahoshi, but today we were all silent. The only sound was the occasional click of the tongue for Nanahoshi. The atmosphere was strained, to say the least. Okay, that's it. We're done for now. After a few hours of this, Nanahoshi called it a day, her voice low and tired. Once again, we made no real progress. As we made our way back to the dorms, Fitz and I still couldn't seem to start a conversation. I wanted to talk about something. I wanted to act like I normally did, but what was I supposed to say? I opened my mouth out thinking. I was afraid I might ask to see her naked or something. Before I could hit on anything, we reached the fork in the road that led to the girls' dorms. Hey, Rudius? Fitz walked a few steps ahead and then spoke to me in an oddly tense tone. Yes? What is it? Her hand, which she'd been holding to her mouth, moved downward. She made it into a fist and squeezed it against her chest. He was obviously going to say something important, maybe something about his gender. I braced myself as best as I could. Sorry, it's nothing, actually. Bye. Oh, okay then. See you. Fitz looked at the ground as he turned and quickly trotted off towards his dorm. Exhaling softly, I watched him go with an unpleasant hazing feeling in my chest. I decided not to cause him any trouble if I could possibly avoid it, but to be honest, it was a little hard to take. Chapter 9, Rain in the Forest. It was evening. There were still 3 people in the student conference room. First was a striking beauty who turned heads everywhere she went. Ariel and Amoa Asura. The second was a sharp-faced but handsome young knight who charmed women with ease, Luke Notos Greyrat. So, what was it you wanted to discuss? So, what was it you wanted to discuss? Across the desk from them was a young man with white hair wearing sunglasses and a male school uniform. His name was Fitz. He brought his hands to his belly and was fiddling around with his fingers anxiously. Ariel looked at him for a long moment, but he didn't seem inclined to speak, so she continued. The other day, Rudius ran into us while we were out shopping. He found your actions rather suspicious, Fitz. Mm. Not long thereafter, he threw you to the floor in the library, after which you ran off, declaring yourself to be a man, or so the rumors have it. Rudius probably believes that to be a lie. He did get the chance to touch your body at some length from the sound of things. However, it seems like he has no plans to tell anyone about your secret. He claims to be frightened of antagonizing me, but given his skills, that seems highly unlikely. I believe he's simply attempting to do right by a friend. Quite admirable, really. Ariel shot Fitz a sharp look. The question at this point is, what are you going to do? Fitz's shoulders twitched at Ariel's harsh tone, but he made no reply. I do think it's all right to take your time with this, Ariel continued. However, it's now been a half year since you've made any progress at all. Can you blame me for wanting to say something? She waited for Fitz to reply. Thanks to the large sunglasses he wore, she couldn't see the look in his eyes, but she recognized the way he was fiddling with his fingertips. It was a telltale sign that he was overwhelmed, something he only did when he couldn't think of anything at all to say. If she let him keep going like this for much longer, he'd probably whimper something like, I'm sorry, or I need a little more time to try, or a little more time to try and postpone this conversation. And so Ariel pressed on. I have to say, I've gotten rather sick of watching you dither about like this. This wasn't actually true. Ariel enjoyed watching Fitz squirm. She was a little jealous of his feelings for Rudius, but she certainly didn't oppose them. However, Rudius was spending less and less time with Fitz as a result of this new friendship with Silent, and Fitz was growing more melancholy by the day. That was rather painful for her to watch. I think it's about time you found the courage to tell him who you really are, Fitz, or rather, Sylphie. Fitz pressed his lips together tightly and raised his head to look at Ariel. In a moment later, he took off his large pair of sunglasses. The face underneath them was distinctly feminine. Would have been hard to mistake it for that of a boy, in fact. It was the face of Sylphiette, Rudius's childhood friend. Princess Ariel, She began seemingly ready to speak her mind at last, but then stopped almost immediately, looking like she might burst into tears. This was enough to tell Ariel something she'd suspected vaguely for a long time. Sylphie, this is going to be the 3rd time I've asked you to do this, but right now, is there something that you want to do? There was. Yet Sylphie shook her head. What she wanted was impossible, for 2 different reasons. First of all, she was too afraid. Or she felt that Rudius might have forgotten her entirely. Secondly, she cared too much about the friends in front of her. She chose to pursue this new goal, it might mean parting ways with Ariel. That would mean betraying her and Luke and these friends who had fought at her side, struggling to survive and realize their objective. Together, these doubts kept Sylphie silent. But this time, Ariel didn't take no for an answer. Sylphie, you saved my life many times, she said, her voice soft and gentle. If you hadn't fallen from the sky in the gardens of the Silver Palace, I would have died on the spot. It was you who protected me from the assassins who came for me when I slept as well. And you fought for me, desperately outnumbered, at the red worm's upper jaw. You've helped me countless times in the last few years. But I owed you that, Princess Ariel. And more. When I was teleported into the palace, I didn't have the first idea what was going on. If you hadn't helped me... Ariel shook her head slowly. Any debt you owed me was more than repaid when we fled the kingdom. Since then, we've been on equal footing. I've simply been manipulating you into serving me. You aren't manipulating me, Sylphie shouted, her eyes wide. I want to help you, because we're friends. In response, Ariel smiled in satisfaction and nodded slightly. I'm sure that's true, yes. And for the very same reason, I'd like to help you now. Because we're friends, aren't we? What? I know you, Sylphie. You're probably holding back for my sake, aren't you? But you aren't my servant. You're my friend. There's no need for you to put my goals first and ignore your own. If there's something else you want to do, then leave me and prioritize it. Ariel's kind words were enough to shake Sylphie's resolve, but even as her heart wavered, she managed to squeak out an objection. That would mean betraying you. It most certainly would not, Ariel replied firmly. In fact, were I to hold you back, I would be betraying you. This claim might not have passed scrutiny if they were still in the kingdom of Syrah. Then Ariel was a princess, and Sylphie merely the daughter of some nameless village hunter. She had earned herself the title of guardian mage, true, but they were still far from equal in rank. However, this was the kingdom of Renoa, and Ariel was essentially an exile. Because of that, her words had the ring of truth. If she said something similar to Luke, he would no doubt have objected strongly. He took great pride in his role as Ariel's retainer and would have begged her to give him orders and to use him as she saw fit. Sylphie, on the other hand, had sworn an oath of underlying or undying allegiance to Ariel, but she considered the princess a woman worthy of her service. She respected her so strongly that she would have sacrificed herself obediently if Ariel ordered her to do so. She couldn't quite manage to express these thoughts in this moment, though, mainly because Ariel was speaking to her with such great kindness. Tell me, Sylphie, do you intend to make a traitor of me after all that I've done for you? What? No! Surprised by Ariel's manipulative words, Sylphie looked up with wide eyes. The princess met her gaze with a stern expression. Sylphie found herself wanting to avert her eyes, but managed to resist the impulse. She couldn't help swallowing loudly, though. Show some courage and speak your mind. What do you want to do right now? Well, I... Sylphie pinched her lips together and squeezed her hands into fists. She knew what she wanted to do. All she needed now was the courage to put her feelings into words. At some point, she lost that courage altogether, but now as her good friend waited patiently, she managed to find it once again. I want to be with Rudy. Well done, Ariel smiled at her friend. For once, it wasn't artificial. This was her genuine smile, one she used only rarely. I'm glad you finally came out and said it. Pursue your own goals first, Sylphie. You can always come back to help me out once you're ready. There was kindness in Luke's eyes as well. She's right. Deal with your personal affairs before worrying about ours. He had somewhat conflicted feelings about the situation in truth, but he was happy about his friend finally voiced her real thoughts, and he wanted to trust Ariel's judgment. But I don't think I can take it if Rudy doesn't remember me. Ariel and Luke exchanged a look and smiled wryly. Let's think that part over now, shall we? With those gentle words from Ariel, an impromptu strategy conference was convened on the spot. Perhaps it would be best to keep things simple. Why not just tell him you're Sophiette from Buena Village? I don't think that's advisable. If he really doesn't remember her at all, after all this time, the name might not ring a bell. Luke and Ariel pondered each other's words for a moment. To be sure, there was a good chance that Rudius had forgotten Sylphie. It had been 8 years since they parted, which was more than long enough to forget a childhood friend. At the very least, Sylphie hadn't heard Rudius mention her name even once in the last year. It was hard to imagine her name alone would suffice to jog his memory. What could she do to make him remember her? That was the crucial question. Ariel tried to put herself in Rudius' shoes. She didn't remember the names of all the attendants who'd served her 8 years in the past, but there were a few she did recall. For example, Lilia, who had left the court when Ariel was very young. Ariel couldn't remember the woman's face very clearly, but she remembered the way she'd fought off an assassin to protect her. Sylphie, what kind of memories do you have with them? Memories? Yes. People remember us by our skills and the memories we share. That's the reason the nobles are constantly throwing parties to introduce themselves to each other. They memorize flowery speeches and practice complex dances in order to leave at least some impression in the memories of their peers. There are quite a lot of them, you see, so it's impossible to remember every single one you meet. Sophie's skills were certainly distinctive enough, but there weren't that many people in the entire world who could cast spells silently, and none so young as Sophie or Rudius. But even with the benefit of that enormous hint, Rudius hadn't thought of her. There were 3 reasons for this. Firstly, Rudius's tendency towards self-deprecation. He instinctively believed that anything he could do was easy enough for anyone else to imitate. Secondly, he had since run into Rijerd, Kishirika, Orsid, and Bodigadi. His encounters with these overwhelmingly powerful individuals had left him with the impression that the world was full of people much stronger than he was. In his mind, it seemed reasonable for there to be plenty of silent spellcasters out there. And finally, there was Ariel herself. Sylphie's silent spellcasting might have seemed more unusual if she was only an ordinary student, but she was the guardian of a more powerful princess. It made sense to Rudius that any mage who served as a royal bodyguard would be highly capable. Excuse me. Memories? Huh? I did tell you about how I used to be bullied, didn't I? Yes. You told me you were picked on rather ruthlessly about the color of your hair. Incidentally, Sylvie had never revealed to Luke or the princess that her hair was originally green. She feared it might cause them to treat her with suspicion. It wasn't that she didn't trust them. The thought of admitting it was simply frightening, so she decided pretending that the hair had been white all along. Once the lie was out there, it was hard to take back, and her hair showed no signs of changing back to its original color, so she didn't really have to. This is probably the ideal moment to reveal the truth she'd hidden from them until now, but the bullying she'd suffered in childhood had left its mark on her mind, and she couldn't bring herself to do so. The first time I met Rudy was when he saved me from those bullies. It's the strongest memory I have of him. Hmm, I see. Ariel thought it over. Could they arrange to have Sylvie attacked by a group of ruffians, giving Rudius the chance to swoop in and save her? There was a problem with that plan, unfortunately. Sylvie was a powerful mage. You wouldn't know it to look at her now, but in real combat, she was decisive, quick, and deadly. Your average pack of thugs wouldn't last 5 seconds against her. In all likelihood, Rudius held his friend Fitz's strength in some regard as well. Were there any potential attackers available that were skilled enough to put her in real danger? The answer was yes, actually. Most of the adventuring clan Thunderbolt, known for its skill in combat, was currently staying in the city. For the right price, they could probably be convinced to pretend to assault Sylphie. However, rumor had it that they were on friendly terms with Rudius. Someone claimed to have seen Quagmire Rudius drinking tea with sold out of the party's step leader in a cafe recently. Elena Lee Dragon Road and Cliff Grimoire had been there as well. Based on this fact, hiring Thunderbolt wasn't a suitable option. Choosing another random group of adventurers to play that role also didn't strike Ariel as advisable. Rudius probably had more acquaintances in that community than Ariel even suspected. Even if she tried to find a group that didn't know him, there was a good chance they'd have met somewhere else before. That might make things complicated and messy. Someone might even end up getting hurt, and Ariel certainly didn't want to risk that. Do you have any other memories of him? Uh, yes. Oh, yes, one other thing that comes to mind. Sophie's face went red, and she paused for a moment before continuing. At first, Rudy thought I was a boy, you know. One day it started raining while we were outside practicing magic, so I came over to his house to take a bath. But then he, um, started tearing off my clothes. Halfway through her story, Sophie glanced over at Luke. He promptly covered his ears with his hands. Say what you will about the man, but he could take a hint. Um, and then he pulled down my panties and saw my, uh, private parts. That's how he realized I was a girl. Sophie went on to explain how Rudius had been a little depressed for a while after that. Era had already heard the story of what happened after this incident, actually. It seemed possible to her that these events had something to do with Rudy's decision to keep his silence about Fitz's gender. Even if he didn't remember Sophie clearly, he learned a lesson then that still stuck with him. He didn't forcibly expose people's secrets. That's quite a nice story, said Ariel, smiling. On the inside, however, she was thinking, this is it. They just have to create an identical situation and make Rudius undress Sophie with his own hands. With excitement running high on both sides, she could hopefully overcome her anxiety and blurt out the truth. All right, let's go with that. Ariel had made up her mind, and there wasn't going to be any debate. Luke, take your hands off your ears. We're going to discuss our plan now. At this point, however, the princes remembered their second biggest problem Sophie's penchant for self sabotage. If they didn't take some precautions, her cowardice would doom their plan to failure. Before we get into details, though, there's one point I want to make sure we're clear on. Uh, okay, Sophie, you told us that you want to be with Rudius, but I'd like to know what that means to you, specifically. Sophie considered that question. What specifically did she want from Rudius? What did she want to do with him? She wanted to be at his side at least. She'd been in love with him for quite some time, and those feelings had only grown since the reunion. But she sometimes indulged in some very specific fantasizing also. For example, she often daydreamed about what their life would be like after they got married. In these fantasies, the house they lived in was the one Rudy's family owned back in Buena Village, or at least one of the same size. The two of them shared the same bed, naturally. When she woke up every morning, Rudius was lying by her side. He greeted with a good morning and a kiss, and got dressed and went off to do his morning training. Heading downstairs, Sophie made breakfast. This was one of her jobs around the household. It wasn't anything too fancy, but Rudius always had a solid appetite, so she made plenty of food. By the time everything was ready, Rudius was back. He ate the food and said something like, delicious as always, once he finished. He didn't talk while he was eating, though. Sophie just watched him pack it in, serving second helpings when he wanted one. Once breakfast was over, Rudy headed off to work. Sophie handed him a lunchbox and waved goodbye, then headed off to meet up with Princess Ariel. They both had jobs, just like Rudy's parents. She hadn't come up with a specific job for Rudy, but it was just a fantasy, so that wasn't too important. When Sophie finished her day at work and came back home, she ran into Rudy at the entrance. He smiled a little at the sight of her, brushed the snow off her shoulders, and pulled her in for a hug. Then they headed inside together and turned on the heating stove. Before too long, they had the bath ready. Once they cleaned themselves off and warmed up, it was time for dinner. While Sophie worked on that, Rudy was making figurines by the stove or something. Dinner was a little different from breakfast. Rudy was much more talkative, for one thing. He told her all about his day and the things he'd seen at work. All of his stories were amazing. Too amazing for her to think up in advance. She giggled at his jokes and felt impressed by his accomplishments. Once the meal was over, they spent some quiet time together on the sofa by the heating stove. Sophie snuggled up against Rudy and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't even say a word. Before too long, they started gazing into each other's eyes, and their faces drew closer. Their shadows would overlap as Rudy picked Sophie up in his arms, turned off the stove, and carried her to the bedroom. Rudy's kind of a pervert sometimes, you know? He might say, "How many kids do you want?" or something like that. But then I'll say, "As many as you want to give me, Rudy." He'd probably just laugh and say, "That might be too many." Then start taking off my clothes. And then I'd laugh too and say, "Better get started then." Hee 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 hee. Yeah. Snap back to reality by a tactful throat clearing from Ariel. Sophie shut off her internal monologue, flushed bright red, and looked at the floor while fiddling with her ears. Now then, said Ariel gently, take that fantasy of yours and imagine another woman in your place. Sophie tried to picture Nanahoshi taking on the role of Rudy as wife. She imagined herself living in the house next door, watching them through the windows as they went about their day. When Rudius and Nanahoshi noticed her, they smirked a little and shut the curtains. You don't like that idea, do you? No! Not one bit! Very well then. With a firm nod, Ariel looked Sophie right in the eyes. Whether this operation succeeds or fails is entirely dependent on your efforts, Sophie. Right. In case this wasn't enough, Ariel chose to hammer the point home. I won't allow you to chicken out again. Not this time. If you come back and tell me that you couldn't find the courage to speak up when it counted, then I'll never help you with this or again. In fact, I'll do worse than that. By my authority as Ariel Anemoi Asura, second princess of the kingdom of Asura, I'll forbid you to ever contact Rudius Greyrat again. Sophie swallowed loudly. She understood, of course, that Ariel was only trying to push her forward. This was less than a literal threat than an order to approach this very, very seriously. Seeing the tension on Sophie's face, Ariel slowly said her final words on the matter. Give this everything you've got. Yes, ma'am. Very good. Ariel nodded deeply one more time and proceeded to outline her plan. Sophie. We wasted no time putting our operation into action. It was lunchtime on a school day, and I was on the first floor of the dining hall. The room was packed full of common students, ex-adventurers, beast folks, demons, and all sorts of other people. The noble-born students tended to mock this group ruthlessly at every chance they got. Most of their insults were based on nothing more than prejudice. Princess Ariel found that attitude absurd. She liked to point out that only 400 years ago, some of the very tribes they mocked so freely had nearly driven humanity to total defeat. Not that any of that was too relevant right now. I spotted Rudy sitting at the very back table, chatting casually with a small group of friends. He was with Sonoba, King Bodigadi, and Julie, who sat at the far end of their table holding a cup in both hands and shooting glances at the other three. Do explain, Sir Body. What are the most crucial qualities of a figurine in your estimation? They must be cuter than the real thing, and more importantly, they must be sexy enough to excite all those who see them. Ah, yes, the erotic element. Your tastes are truly refined, Your Majesty. Here, have another drink. Bodigadi was guzzling down large amounts of beer. His dark skin looked slightly flushed. Rudy and Zenoba watched with big smiles on their faces, regularly refilling their mugs. Or sorry, this was her. This was strange. This dining hall didn't even serve alcohol. Had they gone out to buy some beforehand? Incidentally, Sir Body, what would you think about me making a figurine of the Empress Kishirika? A very sexy one, of course. You wish to depict my fiancée, but you don't even know what she looks like, fully grown boy. That's exactly the point, though. Once she's back to normal, you won't get to see the charming miniature version of her any longer. That's why we need to preserve her current appearance for posterity. Ah, I see. You may have a point there. The woman's a bit careless at times, though, and she's been known to get herself killed rather abruptly. I'd expect she'll be back in her smaller form sooner or later. But surely the decor of your castle would be much improved by a display of Empress Kishirika's at various ages. You're a human, boy. You won't live long enough to see her at all ages. That's the problem, all right. That's the problem, all right. If we're going to make that dream come true, hold on. That's the problem, all right. If we're going to make that dream come true, I'll have to pass on my figure-making skills or techniques to future generations, and that's why I could really use your support, Your Majesty. For all of your power, you play the role of a wheedling salesman oddly well. I approve of your naked greed, boy. What is it that you desire, then? Money? Men? Oh, nothing like that. I was merely hoping you could put in a good word for me every now and then. Rudy had his evil smile on again. It really did make him look like a total villain. He didn't smile very often, but when he did, it tended to turn out like that. That was one thing that hadn't changed since I met him. There had been someone who smiled like that in the royal court as well. A man I knew as Minister Darius. He was our mortal enemy and the one who eventually drove us out of the country, but his smile looked like Rudy's, so I never flinched when he turned it on us. Maybe it was just something that came with being a clever person. Rudy and Zenoba seemed really devoted to their hobby of using earth magic to make little sculptures of people. It's hard for me to comment on the quality of their work, but at the very least, the figures were really detailed and precise. When Rudy showed me a red worm sculpture they were working on, I'd been seriously impressed. They were also training Julie, who had proven to be a very talented young dwarf, to help him out, and now they were trying to rope a demon king into the business as well. It was obvious they were really serious about this project. I did want to join in and help them out, since I was a pretty good mage myself, but that wasn't an option. I had to save my mana for protecting Princess Ariel. Hello, Rudius. Oh, hello there, Master Fitz. When I called out to him, Rudy looked up at me with a pleased expression. I've been acting a little strangely around him recently, but it didn't seem like he was wary of me or anything. Honestly, he could be kind of oblivious sometimes. Still, it felt like proof that he trusted me completely. That did make me happy. What can I do for you? I hesitated for a moment. It was kind of hard to broach the subject with Zenoba and the Demon King watching me. Would you mind stepping outside with me for a minute? Not at all. Zenoba, can you handle the rest? Of course, Master. Leave all the details to me. Rudy and Zenoba were sure worth close 3 days, Rudy and Zenoba sure were close these days. I couldn't help feeling just a little jealous. I led Rudy out of the dining hall and found a quiet, isolated spot to talk. Now it was time to get to the point. Go right ahead, please, Rudy said. He looked so handsome when he had that serious expression on his face. It wasn't even fair. Actually, I have a pretty big favor to ask of you. You do? Well, rest assured, said Rudy, thumping a fist slightly to his chest. I'll do everything I can, of course. Hold on a second. I didn't even tell you what I'm asking yet. I'm not going to refuse you, Master Fitz. Well, not unless I absolutely have to. Wow, that was really sweet, actually. It made me feel terrible about deceiving him like this. It was bad enough that I couldn't even bring myself to tell him who I was. Okay, so you remember how I told you Princess Ariel was spending a couple days at the home of a noble she knows? Well, they had this bodyguard there, and apparently she's really strong. Ah, you want help fighting this bodyguard then? What? No, no. Oh, I see. That's good then. I'm not much for fighting. Not much for fighting? Is that supposed to be a joke? Should I be laughing right now? Let's just move on. Princess Ariel started to get annoyed by how much this noble boasted about this bodyguard. She insisted that her Fitz was even stronger. Aha, got it. So then the noble tells her, my bodyguard braved the forest of hail with a party of only 4 and brought back the flower that grows in its depths. In this really boastful tone, Rudy put a hand on his chin and nodded thoughtfully. A flower that grows deep inside the forest of hail. She must mean the freeze fringe, right? Its petals can be used to make a powerful tonic, but it's well known for only growing there and only in the winter. Wow, that's our Rudy. He knew that off the top of his head? It was a good thing we'd taken the time to do our research and pick a plant that actually existed. The forest of hail is dangerous in the winter, Rudy continued. But if you head in there with a party of 4 A-ranked adventurers, it's not that impressive an accomplishment. As long as everybody moves carefully, you could get the flower and get out without putting yourself in too much risk. He went on to rattle off the names of the various monsters that reside in the forest of hail. Snow hornets, white cougars, mustard treants, and so on. I was a little stunned by how easily he pulled this information out of nowhere. How did he have all this memorized? Right. Anyway, Princess Ariel couldn't bring herself back down, so she told him Fitz could pull that off with an even smaller group, now that she asked me first. Now I see. So that's the issue, is it? Rudy nodded with a look of satisfaction. I'll get in touch with an adventurer friend of mine and have them sell you the flowers at a good price. Then we'll never know you didn't go there yourself. What? That would just be cheating, Rudius. I'm supposed to get the job done myself. Power comes in many forms. Having connections is one of them. I got tons of adventure friends, and I'm your friend. You're just putting the relationship you built to use. That's a totally valid way to get things done. Oh, wow. Listen to him playing around with words. What's he even talking about? Sorry, I just can't do that. If word got out, I'd end up humiliating late Princess Ariel. Okay then. Let's go get the flowers ourselves then. Rudy changed his tune easily enough. The idea of facing that dangerous forest with a party of two didn't seem to intimidate him in the slightest. Or so I thought until the next sentence left his mouth. Give me 3 days, and I'll round up some guys I know. Should be simple enough with a group of 10 or so helping out. Don't worry, step leaders in town now. I'm sure I can get some of them to come along. Now I was completely lost. What? Rudius, no! Ariel said I'd go with a smaller party. Why would we bring 10 other people with us? Oh, don't worry about that. They'll just enter the forest a few hours before us coincidentally. Maybe some of them will be gathering materials there and others hunting monsters for a job. They might happen to wipe out all the threats in our path, but none of them will touch the flowers. We'll grab all those by ourselves. Wow, talk about sneaky. Was this just how adventurers did things? No. Rudy had been an adventurer for years, and he learned just how dangerous forests really were. He was just worried about me getting hurt, since I was an amateur at this sort of thing. Yeah, that had to be it. Probably. Look, do we really need all those other people? I bet you and me could handle it just fine on our own, Rudius. Oh, wait. Are you just asking me to be your bodyguard, Master Fitz? Wasn't that what I said at the start? Maybe not, actually. Yeah, that's right. Can you help me out, Rudius? Rudy put one hand on his chin and thought for just a moment before nodding. Okay, then. You've helped me out in all sorts of ways, Master Fitz. Wouldn't be right of me to turn you down. Thanks, Rudius. I was a little nervous about going out there alone. Despite a few close shaves, I managed to get past the first hurdle. Honestly, though, it felt like he'd come up with a new plan every time I opened my mouth. Rudy really was something else. The operation moved on to its second phase. Rudy and I would be headed into the Forest of Hail. It was located about 3 days' travel north of Sharia, ending right on the border with Basharant. I set out my normal traveling gear, but Rudy showed up heavily equipped. He was carrying an enormous knapsack, which was apparently stuffed full of emergency supplies and rations. I said I expected him to come along empty-handed given how strong he was, but he replied, "You shouldn't underestimate the dangers of any forest. There are some monsters out there that can dodge a stone cannon in midair." That sounded totally absurd to me, but when I pressed him on that point, he said there were tons of creatures like that in the forest, or the forest of the demon continent. I'd assumed it was some kind of joke at first, but his face was totally serious. The monsters known to appear in the Forest of Hail were B-rank threats at worst, though. I could probably handle them just fine. Sorry, Rudius, it feels like I made you do all the prep work. No need to apologize. That's part of the job when you're on a bodyguard mission. Wait, if that was how he was thinking about this, was he going to ask me for money at the end of something? Should I be paying you for your services then? Don't be silly. I'm doing this because we're friends. I don't want anything from you. For some reason, Rudy really emphasized the word friends. I wasn't sure what that was supposed to mean. I could afford to pay you, I could afford to pay you if you want. It's no big deal. Arrow did pay me a regular salary, if not a large one. No, excuse me. I didn't have much to spend the money on, so my savings have been accumulating for a while. I could afford to rent Rudy for a couple days at least. Oh, but he's supposed to be a king-tier magician now, right? Do I actually have enough? Heh, I don't come cheap, you know. Well, I guess you wouldn't, but for some reason I found myself remembering the slave market and picturing Rudy climbing up onto stage naked. Buying Rudy might be kind of fun. A funny feeling rushed through my lower half. I felt my face growing hot with embarrassment. Anyway, let's get started. Right. Together we stepped forward into the Forest of Hail. At first glance, it looked like a perfectly ordinary wood of the sort found all across the Northern Territories. We were surrounded by tall trees packed with snow. However, there was some sort of magical abnormality in this area that caused hail to fall very regularly. When you stepped on the snow here, it made a distinctive crunching sound. The flowers bloom on a cliff on the far side of the forest. We'll head straight there while clearing the snow in our path. Follow me and keep an eye on the surroundings, please. Sorry. With this announcement, Rudy started to march steadily forward, melting the snow in front of him as he went. I tried to help out as well, but I couldn't get the hang of it. I had to assume he was using fire magic given the limited range of effect, but it wasn't easy to continuously generate enough heat to melt a thick bed of snow. I could have done it if I wanted to, but it would have cost me way too much mana. Rudy spent his reserves of magic really lavishly. The snow here was deep enough to reach our shoulders, but he just kept clearing it as we moved along. At first, I was worried that the clouds of water vapor might attract some monsters, but somehow he wasn't making any. When I asked him how he was doing it, he said if you carefully control the temperature, you could get it hot just enough so it make the snow melt without producing any clouds of steam. How much practice would it even take before he could do something like that? Focus, Selfie. That's not really important right now. It was time to get started with the plan. Taking a deep breath, I pointed to the staff that Rudy carried. I remember bringing this to you the other day, Rudius. It's an amazing staff. I've never seen a custom-made one with a colored magic stone outside the royal court before. Yeah, the young lady I was tutoring gave it to me as a gift on my 10th birthday. Rudy looked a little... Oh, I was tutoring... Or the young lady I was tutoring gave it to me on my 10th birthday. Rudius looked a little sad for some reason. Come to think of it, he never told me much about this young lady he spent years tutoring. Felt like he didn't want to talk about her. From everything I heard, she sounded like a really violent girl. Maybe he had some bad memories from that time in his life. Do you think I could try holding it for a while? All I have is my beginner's wand, you know. I've always wanted to use a staff like that. Really? I assumed they'd give the bodyguard or princess a nice staff if they wanted one. They said I didn't need one, since I could cast spells silently anyway. Talk about cheap, huh? Of course, this wasn't the real reason I'd stuck with my little wand for so long. Rudy had given to me as a gift, so it meant a lot to me. It was a common kind of wand. I couldn't blame him for not recognizing it. Well, go ahead. Get a nice good grip on the shaft there. Pretty thick, huh? For some reason, Rudy had this strange smirk on his face as he said this. Was something funny about this that I wasn't seeing? Feeling slightly nonplussed, I squeezed Rudy's staff in my hands. It was a little awkward holding onto this thing. My hands were too small for it. Yeah, it's super thick. Are you supposed to hold this in both hands? Maybe. I think they wanted to make sure I could still use it once I grew up. Hmm. Smiling to himself, Rudy resumed his march forward in snow-clearing duties. I followed closely after him, still holding his staff. Okay, so far so good. Time for the next step. Bringing the ring I wore on my pinky to my mouth, I whispered the keyword, Red Tower, as softly as I could. The small stone embedded in it changed from blue to red. The ring was one of the magical implements that Princess Ariel always wore on her person. When you spoke the keyword, its stone changed color, and so did the stone in its companion ring. The effect didn't work over very large distances, but right now the other ring in the set was waiting for my signal just outside this forest. Is it really going to work? I glanced nervously at the sky and waited for the next stage of our plan to begin. Despite my anxiety, it happened soon enough. The sky began to grow cloudy with unnatural speed. Everything was going well so far. It didn't take long for Rudy's to notice a change in the weather. Looking up, he murmured, Rain clouds? That's strange, to himself. Rain almost never fell at this time of year in the Northern Territories. As a result, the protective gear most people wore wasn't much good against it. The heavy stuff we had on was made of snow hedgehog fur. You could brush snow right off of it before it melted, so it was really useful in the winter. Rain would soak right into it, though, and once it got drenched through, a single gust of Arctic wind would basically freeze you solid. It looks like it's going to rain, or it looks like it's going to rain, Master Fitz, Rudy called back to me, frowning. When something like this did happen, your only real options were to create a makeshift shelter on the spot, or take refuge in a cave. The latter option was considered somewhat safer and more reliable. Rudy was very good at earth magic, of course, but he wouldn't want to keep spending mana just to keep us dry until the rain stopped. That was seriously tedious work. And so I had an alternative proposal to offer. Let's see. Looking at the map, I think there's a cave just ahead, so let's take shelter there. But before I could get the words out, Rudy shook his head and interrupted. Don't worry, I'll scatter those clouds in no time. He then lifted his hands toward the sky. Oh, crap! In that moment, I realized I had made a serious mistake. Rudius was a saint-tier water magician. Manipulating the weather was second nature to him. Princess Ariel had told me that she'd hired 2 advanced water-tier magicians for this job, but they'd be no match for Rudy. He'd probably get rid of those clouds in no time at all. What do I do? What do I do? If it doesn't start raining, the whole plan falls apart. Acting on reflex, I started to channel mana into the staff I held in my hands. I could feel it amplifying my power to a remarkable degree. Maybe I could do this after all. Still pointing his hands upward, Rudy tilted his head in puzzlement. He was probably confused by the cloud's stubborn refusal to dissipate. What he didn't know was that I was fighting to keep them together. I don't know if Rudy wasn't giving it his all, or that the staff gave me an edge, but the two of us were basically canceling each other out, which meant the 2 advanced tier magicians outside the forest could maintain control. Whispering silent prayers to no one in particular, I channeled more and more mana upward. I visualized the rain clouds growing fatter and spreading across the sky. I did it just like Rudy had taught me, gathering moisture, cooling it until it condensed, and letting it fall. Rudy frowned again. A moment later, the first cold drops of rain fell upon us. Sorry, Master Fitz. Looks like I'm not performing well today. He looked a little upset at this development, understandably. That's okay, Rudius. It's probably just because I was holding your staff. Without my staff, I should have been able to scatter those easily enough, he muttered, studying his hands. I guess I haven't done this much lately. I'm just rusty? Or maybe. I got the idea he suspected those rain clouds might have been intentionally created. Still, it probably hadn't even occurred to him that I might have actively interfered with his attempt to dispel them. Oh well, it's not like there's much we can do now that it's coming down. There's a cave up ahead, isn't there? Let's take shelter in there. Yeah, Good idea. I nodded forcefully, and we started moving again at once. Our snow hedgehog gear sucked up the water like a sponge. For too long at all, we were both freezing cold. All according to plan. There it is! Finally shivering and soaking wet, we stumbled into our shelter. It was a small natural cave no more than 10 meters deep, and it was also our real destination. Chapter 10, Rain in the Forest.
Nope.
I knew there was something-
Nope. It's 10:17. We're not starting a new chapter.
All right.
Showdown!
Yeah.
Showdown!
You did good. No, Shim, you did good. You did very good.
Cool.
You just
thanks.
have to realize we started about an hour late, so that's why it may not feel like you've been reading for that long.
Oh no, it's fine. I was just going on habit.
You just did it. You were just zoned in, man.
Yeah, it was locked
Well,
in.
we made it to 72% of the way through this book. So look
I was
at
trying
that.
to mimic the way she mimicked his voice in the anime, but
I want to make a cop out. It's like, wow,
We're not
on.
far away from the end of the story. Okay, so we have Rain in the Forest Part 2.
Well, we had the Rain in the Forest, and then he meets up with his
And
dad
then-
again later.
And then the
after that.
final push. No, he doesn't
Yeah,
meet up
and
with his
then-
dad. He doesn't meet up with his dad until late.
So that's like what, book 11, book 12.
Yeah, more like into book 11,
Yeah.
if not book 12. No. Right now, what happens is we have chapter 10, Rain in the Forest, and then chapter 11, the final push, and then it's side story and extra chapter. That's literally
Okay.
what.
Oh.
So here we go. Side story, Sylphiette, part 0, and then the extra chapter, The Mad Dog Rages, which is about Eris, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's what's left. We only have 2 chapters of the actual like story as it's been happening in the anime left, and then we have 2 side story chapters, and that's the end of the book. We may get done with volume 9 next week.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No pressure, Sonic. Cuz it is your week next week. Oh, how do you want to
I guess
handle
we're
this,
skipping
Shim?
Moon then, huh?
Do you would you prefer to skip? Would you prefer Moon read next week or no?
If
I mean,
he
either
wants
is
to,
fine.
yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me.
I mean, either way, someone's gonna have to read them getting it on. So
That is true. Do you?
Is that next week?
Yeah, that is
yeah,
next week.
yeah, this is the chapter. This is the one where
Sonic,
she was
Sonic. This is
Like,
all right. So the next chapter is them slowly getting towards that, and then the chapter after that is when she gives him the hot and heavy potion.
oh, when she gives him
The-
the
Oh,
sword
Yeah,
that gives him the power.
right.
He's
so chapter 11 is the.
You
You know what? I found it. I figured it out. It's the erection correction formula. There we
Oh
go.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
that does make sense actually. Yeah.
Do you want to read that, or do you want to make Moon read that?
I think I want to read the leading up to that.
Oh, you want to
'Cause
read?
I think I
you
can
don't
make
want
it
to read what
very
So
actually
you want to
happens
read
in-
chapter 10, but not
I'll
chapter
read the
11.
next-
You
I'll
don't want to
read
give
next week,
Rudius a
that's-
really stupidly deep voice and also give Sylphie a really deep voice while it's
Like
going
you
on.
have to here's the thing. You have to do the entire sex scenes with
Yeah.
Rudy
including
and Sylvie.
including giving Rudius a very squeaky voice and giving Sylphie the deepest voice you could possibly
Oh
give.
yeah, you know what I can do is like I'll lean in really close to the mic and sensually
Oh
tell
my
you every
fucking
excruciating
God.
detail. What's
Okay, for a
going
second I
on.
thought
my
Sylvie
God.
And then whenever
was
Sylphie's like,
in our chat, and I was like, wait,
No,
Oh,
who the
it's
fuck-
just, I
yeah.
was just like, which one?
Yeah.
Like, do you want
Yeah.
to read? Do you want to read these scenes? Do you want to have to like act out those scenes, or are you cool with just like whatever? Because it could be.
I'll
it
read
could be
next
either.
week. It's fine. Whatever
Alright,
happens
cool.
next week happens.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be
Oh,
great because we're
yeah.
like right in the middle of a sexy, sensual scene between Rudius and Sylvie, and then he's gonna say a word incorrectly and mess the whole thing up and pull us out of it. So it's gonna be great.
Oh, I'm excited. It's gonna be
No,
fun.
I'm just giving you guff, dude. You're fine. You're fine.
That is
No.
very
It'd be
funny.
super funny if it's like next week and it's like afterwards it's like everyone's like, God damn, I got a boner. What the fuck? What the hell, man?
Nah.
Gross.
Yeah, I know. That'll be the. That's,
I
that would be the weird part.
hey, this is the book. This is the book that when you're not like,
Bonar.
if you're not having to read it out loud, you're fine. You're fine. This is just an awkward This is just a really awkward moment between two people. But when you have to read it out loud online on the internet, oh my god, it's the most
like
uncomfortable
we
read.
have to.
I
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
Also, not mad that I'm forcing you guys to read and not reading at all because I already read this book out loud on the internet once. Nope, not again. I've read all the way to I think volume 15.
isn't it like 20
Just
something, right? Like that means it's done.
Yeah, there's 20
26
or 26.
26. I think
Are they all
26.
about the
Let me double
same
check.
size,
I
or
have
are
it.
some books a lot bigger
Some
than
books are
others?
bigger, some are shorter.
Give
Like,
or
okay, so
take,
here's the thing.
uh,
Getting back to our
I'm maybe
getting back to our
26.
earlier discussion. Getting back to our earlier discussion. That's the funny thing about the beginning after the end.
What do you mean?
As you get further into the story, the books get larger.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. And
so like the
page
final
count.
book is going to be like 87,000 pages.
I don't know. Hang on. Let me check the page count for the different
Maybe it's
books.
a bit. Maybe it is a bit.
Well, it's not like they progressively get longer. That's not the bit.
Oh, well, that'd be funny.
Is all right. So right now, the entire series is estimated to be around 2,970 pages for
That's
the
a lot of
beginning after
pages.
the end. That's a lot of pages.
There's a lot of
But
pages.
every volume ranked by page count, what we're at right now, the largest book is the most recent one, volume 11, with 1,087. Now,
Hmm.
there's a side story. There's a side story that was released that's only 212. But I don't know how much of the side story we're going to do. Okay, so beginning after the end, volume 1 is 247. Volume 2 is 260.
Uh-huh.
Okay, where is volume 3? There's volume 3, 289. And then drop down a little bit for volume 4 at 264.
Mm.
Then we get to volume 5. This is where we start jumping. 407 pages.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
Okay. Volume 6, 632.
That's a bigger jump. Hooray.
Then we drop down once more again.
Mhm.
Volume 7, 622.
Ugh.
All right. Now we're going to start making the leaps. Volume 8, 958. Volume
This is
9.
Mushoku,
1,000
right?
pages.
No, this is for the beginning after the end.
Oh,
Here's what you need to know. Volume 9, we drop down a little bit. 923. Volume 10, we drop down a little bit further. 888. Volume 11, up, we jump back up again. 1087.
Holy shit.
God only knows what volume 12 is going to be, and that's the final book.
1,200.
I don't know.
guess.
I don't know, dude. I know that you can actually read the individual chapters of the web novel on Tapas. So I've read a few chapters into volume 12 just because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
But I am going to read the whole freaking thing when it comes out.
Neat.
And you got to also realize for some of the audiobooks,
Mhm.
that they have for this, holy cow, dude. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Hey, give me a second. I'm gonna look up the page count for slime novels. Okay, the number of pages in each volume of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is between 200 to 400 pages, while others
Mhm.
claim 1,000 pages per volume. Okay. Yeah, my guy. Okay. Okay, so the audiobook. Okay, so the publisher's pack for. All right, keep in mind this is book 1 and 2 because for volumes 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, they combine them together as one audiobook, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, the beginning after the end, the uh, first volume, or the volumes 1 and 2, 12 and a half hours for the audiobook.
Huh.
All right.
Yeah.
For 3 and 4, almost 13 hours, 12 hours and 55 minutes. Now, here we go. Just on its own, book 1, 6 hours, 8 minutes. Book 2, 6 hours, 17 minutes. Book 3, 6 hours, 44 minutes. Book 4, 6 hours, 12 minutes. Now we start to hit the real shit. This is when the ramping up happened. Convergence, book 5, 9 hours and 42 minutes. Book 6,
Damn.
Transcendence, 15 hours and 11 minutes. Book 7, just a notch down, 15 hours, 8 minutes. Book 8, Ascension, 24 hours and 18 minutes. Now we have the side story, the in-between side story, Amongst the Fallen, 4 hours, 43 minutes. It's just a side book. Okay, book 9, Reckoning, 22 hours, 45 minutes. Book 10, Retribution, 23 hours, 7 minutes. Are you ready? And keep in mind, it took me a long time. I was going on and off and on and off for this for a while. All right.
Yeah.
On book 11, Provenance, 27 hours and 38 minutes. That's how long the audiobook is. My guy. Are you ready to hear how long the are you ready to hear how long the audiobooks are for Mushoku Tensei?
Yeah.
All right. give
Yeah,
a
hit
second.
me.
I'm trying to sign in real quick. Sorry.
That's okay.
Bam. Okay, so I was trying to check out the. Oh my goodness. Okay. Mushoku Tensei. There we go. Oh, that's just showing me volume 2. No, I want to see the whole freaking thing. Okay, hang on. Mushoku. Oh, I forgot I have audio credit. I forgot I have audio credit
Also, you can buy a free audio.
or audible credit. Yeah. Okay.
Hey.
Mm.
That's redundant reincarnation. Okay. Book 1 of Mushoku Tensei is 7 hours and 17 minutes.
Mhm.
That's also redundant reincarnation. Okay. Book 2 is 6 hours and 58 minutes. Book 3 is 9 hours and 22. Book 4 is 7.5 hours. Book 5 is 8 hours and 3 minutes. Book 6 is 8:09. Book 7 is 7 hours and 26 minutes. Book 8 is 7 hours and 6 minutes. Book 9, which we're currently on, 9 hours, 20 minutes. Book 10, 7 hours, 14 minutes. Book 11, 9 hours, 18 minutes. And then book 12, which is the end of season 2 of the anime, 8 hours, 26 minutes.
Holy shit.
From here on in, boys and girls, this is beyond the anime. Book 13, 9 hours, 8 minutes. Book 14, 8 hours, 22 minutes. Book 15, 8 hours, 58 minutes. Book 16, 8 hours, 39 minutes. Book 17, 8 hours, 55 minutes. Book 18, 8 hours, and 56 minutes. Hold on.
Oh, we're going back down now.
Hold up a second. I have to move to the other page because there's 2 pages for just the audiobook stuff.
Oh.
Volume 19, 9 hours, 20 minutes. Volume 20, 8 hours. Just straight up. Book 21, 7 hours, 32 minutes. And oh yeah, that's the book where shit changes. And also we finally get to meet Grandma. Rudy is his grandmother. And I mean, like, um, his mom's mom, Zenith's mom.
Oh yeah, grandma.
Yeah, that grandma. All right. Volume 22, 7 hours, 33 minutes. Volume 23, 8 hours, 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Volume 24, 7 hours, 7 minutes. Volume 25, 6 hours, 38 minutes. And Volume 26, 5 hours, 57 minutes.
Hmm.
There's also another side story, A Journey of Two Lifetimes. It is 8 hours and 14 minutes. It's not
Cool.
book 28. They can say that all they want, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it actually comes up as book 26. After 26, they don't really
The epic
label them
journey
as
has
such.
reached its conclusion, but plenty of stories are left to tell for the jobless reincarnation cast. Return to the six-faced world with this special collection of new adventures while catching up with your favorite characters. This treasure trove of Mushoku Tensei works include the history of Mushoku Tensei, the life chronology of Rudius Greyrat, message of congratulations, a special manga from various artists, 4 brand new short stories, special featured story written by Maganote Sensei, exclusive long form interview, and experience the spoils of an epic journey. There you go.
We
So
need
that's
we need Bodyguard a spinoff.
we need so many
Yeah.
spinoffs, man.
No, we only need one focusing on Bodyguard. In fact, it just has to rewrite over everything in Mushoku Tensei to only
See,
be about him and
here's
only
the
him.
thing. Here's the thing about that, right?
Yeah, I read
You
one
can
chapter that
only
will
you
lungs
can only
explode.
say that because right now
Uh-huh.
all you know of Bodigatti is what you've gotten from the school. When
Yeah.
you start to learn more about Bodigatti and things are revealed, you may
Mhm.
not be so hype about a Bodigatti only
Probably not. I just find it a funny thought right now.
with his Bodigatti.
Well, I just think that it's funny because if there was a spin-off by that, like the first chapter, reading it from his perspective would make my lungs explode. Just every other
Yeah.
paragraph is blah, and then my lungs just and I just die on stream.
He gets halfway through the first word and you just hear "Ah!"
Yep. And then Sonic would have to take over, and then his lungs would explode,
My
I
surprise only
see.
lasts 2
and everybody's
words,
lungs
and then I
explode.
explode.
Yep. Just
Reincarnated
on
as
camera.
a sword. I could add volume 6, but I don't think I'm gonna
Reincarnated
right
as a
now.
body, like a Gotti in my body.
There's a Bodigatti.
Yes.
Gotti's gonna fuck up my body.
Your,
Yeah,
your
I'm just gonna
Bodigatti.
Gotti's
Sonic. I'm
gonna
just gonna
fuck up my
feed you this
body.
copy of
Your
Muppet Treasure
body.
Island through the
Your
Wi-Fi.
Bodigatti.
You better be prepared, Sonic.
Where my body
Yeah.
got it. Where
It's only
my
100 minutes.
body got it.
No, stop. That
Yeah.
no.
No, I'm cooking. I'm cooking.
No, you're not.
Let him cook.
Wait.
I don't know any
Huh,
more action
I'm
after
cooking.
that in
You
the
can't
terms of
say that about
lyrics.
yourself.
You cook too much. Now it's burnt.
You can't say "let him cook," but refer to yourself. That's weird.
Let me cook. I was like,
Somebody else
"No,
has
I
to
did."
let you. Yeah, somebody else has to deem you
He's-
able to cook.
He's like, let me cook. You ain't cooking shit. My guy, you
No,
burnt
no.
water. How?
How?
Fried water.
How did you burn Jello?
Water. I too like Lythero streams.
Yeah. I love them.
All right, so I have the first
Uh,
5 volumes of Sword in audiobook form.
Sword.
Sword.
You know why he hasn't
Yeah.
been able to stream for a while, right? I think it's because his computer blew up on him or whatever.
Who?
Lythero.
Who?
Lythero.
That's so
Where
beautiful.
the whole fried water bit from.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
the streams. They were playing Shadow the Hedgehog,
Irish streamer.
and there was a couple of people with like really stupid usernames. Somebody
Like
was like,
donating for like who was Shadow is good or evil
Gotcha.
or whatever, how they play him.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
it was like steamed air and like different things like that, or and then one of them was like fried
That
water.
reminds me. Speaking of silly words and phrases,
Yeah.
I went grocery shopping today and I got some raw toast.
So bread.
Yeah, that.
Nice.
Bread.
It shall only be called raw toast from now on.
Nice.
With my wallet
Good.
purged, I shall continue. 2.4 story.
I do like eating raw
What
toast by
is she-
myself
Oh,
occasionally.
of course, it's
Oh,
Withering,
Withering
Waves.
Waves.
Yeah. That makes way too much
Mhm.
sense. That
Yeah,
reminds
two
me
Withering
before,
Waves and then 2 Honkai streams after
before. Oh God. I
Oh.
now want to know if she's seen the summary and Sumeru video.
hmm
All right. Well, we're gonna raid Yui. So get ready. Keck W. Oh boy. It's a book club raid. Let's make sure to
Yes.
show some love with the book club raid. You got anything you guys want to say before we say bye bye?
Not at the moment, but thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Appreciate
same.
it.
Especially Rudius. Well, thank you for
Mhm.
coming next week, Rudius.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that till later.
If
Yeah,
not the
that's
following
later.
week.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we're gonna be able to do that on the following week.
Oh, that's right. It's KaiCon, right? Next week? Or
Yeah,
week after next?
it's about 2 weeks away. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But like, no, it's literally right after a KaiCon. So
Yeah.
I don't know how we're gonna do that if
Mm.
I've still got people here. But we'll figure some shit out. Who knows? Anyhow, of course, you is getting bonked by something.
Ha
All
ha.
right,
Point
let's
and
go
laugh.
ahead and raid. I heard there was some bonking going on. There was a VTuber with impure thoughts, and we simply had to know. All right, you ready? All right, take care, everybody. Go say hi with a good book club raid. Bye bye.
Bye.